Hello, and this is Spotlight, recorded live here on Grapple Patreon. I'm Benno.
And I'm Gareth.
It's a me and Gareth show, which must mean it's an AEW pay-per-view weekend. It also means Arsenal are currently playing Bayern Munich, I think, in something called the Champions League. I think that's going on right now. We're head-to-head with that. We're head-to-head with Big Brother as well, Gareth. I don't know if that's the big one, really. We should be worried about. I've heard... Actually, I say I've heard. I actually saw the full first one. I've been watching a fair bit of terrestrial TV while I've been in these new surroundings in Belfast. Saw Mickey Rourke make his entrance to Triple H's entrance theme, looking very much like what you'd imagine 75-year-old Mickey Rourke to look like. Very much acting like a 75-year-old former wrestler. With some of the perviness that was up with him last night. Presume you didn't catch it, or are we getting in the way of Big Brother viewing here on Tuesday night?
No, but I've saw the lineup for it and I was like, oh, that looks quite intriguing. Like this year, normally I was always like a proper Big Brother fan and never a fan of the celebrity Big Brother. And I was pretty obsessed with Big Brother back in the day. That could have been one that we mentioned on the latest Grapple Lads there instead of revealing the love of Greece or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. Might give this celebrity Big Brother a go. Looks like a decent lineup. So could be time for a bit of catch up in between all this wrestling.
I think you're like me, you're a purist. It's the original Big Brother days, back when it was like, it legitimately was a social experiment. Craig from Big Brother went to the same school as me. He's a couple of years above me. He's like a local Crosby legend, isn't he? Our Craig. See him,
I love you, Craig.
Oh, that.
Can you remember that?
Oh,
when he was coming out, like just his sister screaming down. He's like, "I fucking love you, Craig."
He was screaming that to him when he was putting the Christmas tree up in Crosby near you, mate. Gigantic star. Honestly, like the Mickey Rourke thing, I don't know what happened because like literally, like everyone had like their own little song and they like just pick like a random pop song or whatever to do. And he comes out and literally it's the game, like time to play the game, the Triple H theme. And I'm thinking they've done that because he was in the wrestler and they're thinking we'll use a wrestling theme. But then how many like the normal like going public know what that song even is? It's not like say it was Hulk Hogan's songs, probably one people would know. The Rock, Steve Austin. Nah, Triple H is what the ITV went for at 9 o'clock on a Monday night.
Not AEW either.
No, true.
Tony Khan music if it's on ITV.
The tie-in. You know whoever's running it's got no idea what's going on the other channel. They haven't got a Scoobies. They even own AEW. They probably just think it's the WWE.
Not a chance. I expect to know that Mickey Rourke just looks like that guy at the end of Indiana Jones now, like the Nazi whose face melts or something like that. I'm guessing that he's
literally pinned back,
sort of like slowly falling away from his face, kind of thing. But well, give it a go. I'll give it a go and see. I know there's a somebody JoJo Siwa who I was saying he was like a big fan of, like YouTuber or something like that. So she was wanting to watch it. So could be a dad and last thing. You never know. I was
very much the 40-year-old man in the room as every other celebrity came out. Steph was like, "Oh, that's so and so from TikTok. That's so and so from Love Island." And she knows this from a job, not just from being like a fan of Love Island or that type of show. Honestly, Mickey Rourke I'm pretty sure was the only person I knew out of the entire list. But it happens to us all.
Isn't David Platt on it off Curry?
Oh, he was. Yeah, I recognised him. Didn't know his name, but I recognised him. Yeah, he was on there. Couple of singers. I don't know anybody past that, but there we go. That's our competition tonight, as well as our Arsenal getting on. What kind of mood is JP going to be on when he does the midweek newsdom tomorrow? That's my other question. Is he going to be all right? How are they getting on?
Last time I saw it was 0-0. So I haven't watched any of the game at all. But I guess that's a good result for Real Madrid, isn't it? If they can hang on to that, get a draw away from home. That'll be the
minute still as well. Yeah, and it keeps things neutral enough that keeps JP in a good enough mood. But unless he does a last minute run in tonight, it is me and you tonight, Gareth, to talk some AEW, to talk a little bit about WWE news. Going to do a catch up on your favorite show, Monday Night Raw, which I'm very excited to get into. Apparently, I think you watch that more than Matty these days, which isn't particularly hard, as well as Smackdown. I'm pretty sure is also the case. Bit of New Japan in there as well, and all kinds of stuff. But I've got to throw the plugs in early. It is a big month for us over on Grapple. They're always big months, but this one especially is a gigantic one. Anybody who missed us last week with no spotlight would have caught up with the weekend show, and also that would have explained why I'm in some really interesting, different surroundings over these weeks. But it does mean I'm fully home for the start of Grapplemania week, and Grapplemania month is what it's pretty much turned into this month. We're going to be kicking it off next weekend with the flashback live recording of WrestleMania 9. That ended up being the one we went with as far as review goes, which also turned out to be the one that Braden and Davey, I think, are doing on Poison Rana, which also, for good for us, turned out to be the one that the beer are throwing up on the Vault channel and doing a documentary on next week. So it all ties in. We've all had the same idea. It's a WrestleMania from Vegas. That's going to be coming up. Ask Grapple, obviously, came out at the weekend where BJP and Matty answered a few of our Patreon and YouTube member questions. Chris Platt as well. I am sure you'll be made up to hear. Gareth came up with the wonderful idea for his next King of the Mountain show, which is the CM Punk 434-day world title run, which is going to be coming up next week as well. All that plus Grapplemania. I know you're excited for at least one of those shows, mate.
I'm excited for all them shows. I'm like proper looking forward to going back and just dipping into WrestleMania 9, because it's just one of them that's, again, it's an age thing. I know it's shit, but it's not. It's kind of got that special place in my heart as well, just with like the time periods and things like that. So proper looking forward to that one. Yeah, when I saw Platt's show, I was just like, well, here we go. It's just like another month for another CM Punk Patreon show that we can roll out there as well on the CM Punk podcast. So no complaints from me on that one either. And then obviously just getting into WrestleMania month, like I love it. I love just the start of that week. I love kind of that first day of just throwing on, IWTV and just watching random shows, just having like wrestling just constantly on, like for around the house, just show after show. So again, looking forward to. I believe you and me are in the chair for day one with the indie stuff. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into the weeds of that one. And you never know, there could be another Demas and Mad Dog Conley there for me to get my teeth into my match of the year or close from last year. You never know what you're going to get. So yeah, can't wait.
Yeah. I like your optimism because it looks fucking shite at the minute. But I think, and it looked shite last year, and it looks shite. That's the thing about this WrestleMania season. I get excited for it every year. Same thing, the feeling hits. I think when we sit down to do the WrestleMania 9 show on Sunday, I think that's when it's going to feel like a Grapplemania season as well and truly kicked off, which is in fact it's the 7th one under Grapple, we said, Gareth, but I think it's the 8th if we count the indie corner we were saying last week, which is fucking devastating when you think about it. But I have that same feeling every year. It does. It feels like Christmas. Feels like, I've got this week ahead of me. I've already warned Steph because, as you can tell from my surroundings, not in my usual place and not even in the unusual place at the minute, in a bit of a limbo in Belfast in a minute, hence the terrestrial TV viewing. But hopefully Grapplemania will take care of that. I'll be watching lots of wrestling instead. But I've already warned her. It's like she's never experienced it in person. Like, I'm just a zombie that week, and you've just got to roll with it. You've got to kind of accept it. I am half man, half Triller account that week. It just kind of all every day amalgamates into each other. I try and get me a little bit. It's a bit like prison time. I try and get me a lot of bit of sunlight in each individual day as well. But fall into that pattern, and before it's Saturday or Sunday, I'm just a blithering mess. And then we do the Grapplemania review. So it all works. We get it out. We get it done. And every year we say this will be our last one. We're not going to bother again next year. Which I think might be advice JP might be taking on. Or do a Matty and just go there. And then when you're in Vegas, he's apparently might send us some vlogs or something like that. That was his fancy way of getting out of it. But yeah, I don't know. My enthusiasm tends to wane by the third or fourth day. But usually we rally, and like I say, usually it's a fun week, even just through the last.
But by the third or fourth day, you mean by WrestleMania?
Pretty much, yeah. The least important one of the weekend. The two least important shows, I'd say, outside of NXT, which apparently is 9:30 in the morning on Saturday morning, if Matty's to believe in the wonderful Discord thread that Connor has posted for us all, that explains exactly when and where some of these shows are going on. I believe WrestleCon's at 9:30 in the morning start as well.
It doesn't matter, doesn't it? You just lose track of time. It's like Christmas, isn't it? You forget what day it is. You forget what time it is. You've just got that whole thing coming on. But as much as it is the wrestling, it's just the settings as well. Like that's what I love. Like say, like last year was it the House of Glory show, like in that church. That was just a cool setting there. It's just when you just get random little buildings that are got a bit of character in them and stuff that you wouldn't normally see wrestling in. That's all. It all adds to the charm, doesn't it? It's like turning on a show and going, "Oh, we're back here," kind of thing. You've got no idea which building it was going to be on, and then you realise you're back in one, the Ukrainian community centre or something like that.
Usually,
like, oh yeah, that was a good one. So honestly, I'm feeling pretty upbeat, pretty excited, and it's Easter as well, isn't it? Am I right? Is it that weekend? So I'm off work on the Friday anyway. So there you go. I don't even need to squeeze it in around work. So happy days.
There you go. Long weekend Thursday the way to it. To be fair, it's probably a good thing that I'm still in the UK/Ireland for it. I don't want to cause any troubles here. Over this week, because it would add another 6 hours onto it on Bangkok time. It might have been a bit of a struggle fitting everything in, but I'm here, so we are back to full-time Grapplemania. So we're gonna be trying to cover it all. Like I say, Garrett's gonna be on, JP's gonna be on. I expect to just be recording pretty much every day, right through from the Tuesday Grapplemania preview show. We'll have daily news updates, including the midweek news done from JP on the Wednesday, and then those news updates / live shows will be running Thursday, Friday, and Saturday into a little Sunday news roundup. Not quite a news dump, I just call it a news roundup, and then into the Grapplemania spotlight on the Monday, and then we all die on Tuesday. So join us. Can't think of a better way to spend your Easter weekend, your Easter Sunday, and your Easter bank holiday Monday as well, and than spending it with us. But plenty on top of that, as I say. Ask Grapple out now, WrestleMania 9 review, and Chris Platt show, as well as I'm told Brett Show coming out. Marty Let's Slip at the weekend, Gareth. It's not a secret. You've got a show coming up that's very timely as well. WrestleMania 13 main event, I believe. You two are covering. Well, not main event, but best match on WrestleMania 13.
Has he revealed it? What's he doing?
He's revealed it. Ask Grapple on it.
Outrageous! He's breaking his own rules. He's normally the
we blame you.
The gatekeeper of that one, but we've kept that one. We've kept that one. Held that one back and thought it would be good to do tie it in with sort of WrestleMania and anniversary and things like that. And lo and behold, WWE go and make a big deal out of it as well. So there you go, double bubble on the WrestleMania 13 front there. So you can all look forward to that one. And someone else, I'm sure he hasn't revealed the hidden gem either. Probably on that one, he's probably just gone Steve crazy in terms of what he's revealed on there. So there you go. There might be a little Easter egg at the other side.
All that coming up on top of everything we've already put out so far this month. So look forward to all of that, folks. And on that note, we do need to get into what we're going to be talking about this week, which is for the most part AEW Dynasty, which is going to be form the majority of the show today. Dare I ask, Gareth, are you caught up with AEW, which is usually the question I know from your filling in for me on weekend show last week when I thought I was traveling. You've caught up just a bit, but I'm sure fitting in this 4 hour plus / 5 hour plus, I'm sure for you as the completers getting the pre-show in Dynasty card as meant a fun little Monday for you and a fun little Tuesday daytime, if I know you.
Yeah, it was. Luckily, I'm up to date, because I think if you'd have what show was I on with JP recently? It was the weekend show, wasn't it? And I felt like I was almost like in toxic positivity realms in terms of how positive I was towards AEW at that point. So I've been enjoying it. Been a big keeping up to date, more so, and not leaving myself with as much to watch as I have done at past times. But it was I must admit, finishing work and working quite a long day yesterday, and then sitting down, hitting play on the Triller, and then seeing that run time for Dynasty was a bit of a, oh god, here we go. So it was a bit of a late one getting to bed last night, but go to bed in the middle of the night. It's the way pay-per-views were intended, weren't they? I don't know.
This become like a pattern this with the AEW shows, but I didn't make it to the end. To my shame, our Discord is usually very lively during the pay-per-view nights, and it was dead. Like there was like 3 or 4 different people commenting on the show as it was going on. So it was a little bit more lively, but definitely down on the normal level of interest that you get on like these pay-per-view nights. And it just got to, it was one of those where, like, as you kind of talked about a couple of weeks ago on the weekend show, and as me and JP talked about previewing this show, it didn't feel like an A-level AEW show going in. And then on the night, I think the length of it combined with, like I say, there were good matches up and down this show. To be honest, you're hard pressed outside of, I'm guessing we're going to agree on the main event, to find stuff that was massively terrible. Maybe main event and Jericho aside, there's probably the argument to make on that one. But I think it was just one of those where, because the show came so soon, and there's loads of reasons for it. WWE is probably the key one. WrestleMania. I'm upsetting the AEW schedule, and maybe in an alternate universe, there's an extra 2 more weeks to give this thing a little bit more time to breathe and give us all a little bit more time to get excited for it and be ready for it. But like, I think because of that, I just don't think, like, and it's the obvious first talking point on this, I don't think you can get away with just going, it's an AEW pay-per-view, so we're doing our normal 4-hour thing, we're doing our normal near 5-hour thing, or 5.5-hour thing, towards 6 hours, if you're counting, the pre-show on top of it as well. It just felt like one of those nights where, the world wasn't really paying attention to AEW and wasn't really moving people. And case example in point, me, I got to the Daniel Garcia Adam Cole match, and it wasn't a bad match by any means, but the threat of that one and the stipulation being, there's no time limit, so it's gonna go as long as it goes, was just like, you know what, I'm packing it in. It's 4 a.m. This is the 3rd match from the end, and who knows what time this thing is gonna finish. Even I, of all people, packed it in, and I'm finished it off the next day, and I had to do that balancing act again of trying to avoid AEW spoilers, and which involves pretty much uninstalling Twitter, Discord, and every other app from my phone to get to that point. But that's the level of like what this show really was. It wasn't one that I think most people felt the need to stay up for, and it is the type of one where it's not a chore to catch up for it. It's fun to get to talk about these shows, and it's fun to get to kind of review it here. But it was hard work the next day, even to motivate myself to go, okay, you've got to finish this thing. I'm pretty sure the main event's going to not finish the way a lot of people are hoping for, but just get yourself through it and get it done. Like, I don't know, is the answer with the amount of shows AEW are doing now to, are they shortchange? Because I'm not necessarily somebody who always complains about the longer shows. I think when the shows are good, there's a sicko part of me that kind of wants more and is happy for it to run long. But when they're going to be this often, and when they're going to feel as not prestigious, I suppose, as this pay-per-view felt, I think there's every argument to be made that, like, there were at least 1, 2, maybe 3 matches you could just randomly have stripped from this card, and I don't think it would have made a huge difference as far as like importance goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's has there ever been an AEW pay-per-view where we haven't come on and reviewed it and the words, we could have stripped 2 matches away from that and it would have improved things, like, hasn't been said, sort of thing. It's a it just feels like it's commonplace. And I feel like an element of discipline around that had kind of like eked in through the last couple of pay-per-views, as there's been more meaningful matches that have actually had like an element of build to them. So it's felt like, oh yeah, that's justified that that's on the on the cards there. But when you're looking at this, even as high as I've been on AEW for the last, must be sort of 6 months now, 5 or 6 months, even coming out of Revolution there, I think that things have been like generally, quite positive, building towards this pay-per-view as well. It wasn't a show that I was going into like you say, oh, I've got to stay up late for that one. Oh, I'm excited for that one. Like, oh, you're looking down the card and thinking like, yeah, this deserves to be a 4-hour plus pay-per-view, or it definitely not kind of like carrying that prestige. It had that air of, B pay-per-view behind it, which is fine because that's what it is, kind of thing. It is kind of a bit of a stopgap pay-per-view, and that's okay. But equally, as I sat there last night and got to like the 3-hour point, and I'm not even watching it live, and it's not even 4 a.m. and I'm looking at it like, fucking hell, there's still 1 hour and 20 to go here. Like, and like it felt like a slog up to that point. So I think that's where, when you maybe are, you are including things that are like Owen Hart tournament quarterfinals and things, you maybe look at that and go, does that really need to, does that could 2 of those 20 minutes there, or 20, 25 minutes once you add the video package and the ring entrances and things like that, could you shave 50 minutes off this and probably have a better experience start to end? Yeah, you probably could. But did I sit back like at the end and think to myself, you know what, start to end, have I enjoyed this pay-per-view? Like, yeah, I have as well. It did feel a slog that last hour a bit when I was a bit tired last night, but equally, I couldn't walk away from it and say like I didn't have a good time watching it either. So bit of swings and roundabouts as always, really.
I think we're gonna come out around the same place, because I agree. Again, main event aside, overall, most of the stuff on the show was good. It's just it is that it's like it's not even Platt in the chat there saying cut the Owen stuff, but Jericho to the ROH pay per view. I'd be fine with that. But really, any combination of the undercard matches, it's not necessarily any individual match. It's just all of them collectively. And I think, especially knowing what was coming in that main event, and I really didn't believe that it was one of those. We said that on Weekend Show. Hart thought Swerve was going to win. Head was saying this is another one of those Moxley defenses. I think that's what hurt the pay-per-view and has given it. It's got a terrible rating on Cage Match. I think broadly speaking, most people come out of it just feeling negative, and that's going to happen when you have an ending like they have on this pay-per-view. I think what it is though is that when you stack so many of those matches before it, that hard march to that main event, and then for the main event to not be worth it at the end of going through that hard march, is like it's the two things combined and just makes things feel 10 times worse. And if we had a more significant undercard, if we had if the end of it was all worth it because we got this great main event with this great moment, I think it's more forgivable at that point. And I think because they didn't have either card to play, like this for me is the first AEW pay-per-view where I think, yeah, if you ask me thumbs up or thumbs down, I think I'd go a minor thumbs up. But for me, it was a little bit of a warning of like when we talked about AEW over time, and I agree with you. I think the TV has definitely been stronger the last while. I think Tony Khan's had more of an eye on the booking and more of an eye on just the overall, and as far as like planning things out and knowing what's coming next, and just generally outside of the main event, having a good booking structure, having some kind of timeline of where things are going to fit in, maybe to a fault when you think about the main event scene and the world title scene. Like I think that has gotten better, but I think they've got to be careful, because I think going as often as they are with these pay-per-views now, and with a main event scene that I think is mostly making people miserable, like the pay-per-views have been the one reliable thing about AEW. Like even when the TV's been bad, even when when attendance has been bad, you can always rely on the pay-per-views to do you a number and to give you that reminder of, no, this is AEW. AEW still does this. AEW still throws 8 to 10 matches out, and 6 of them are going to be better than anything you'll see on the other channel with WWE. They're going to deliver on that high level that only AEW can do. It's pretty much their like last remaining selling point, even if things have, improved from a minor point on the TV. And this was the closest one I've come to, probably, where I'm saying, I'm not sure it was I think it was a good pay-per-view, not a great pay-per-view. And I think the majority of AEW pay-per-views have been great pay-per-views. And I think, yeah, you've got to be careful not to lose that selling point on top of everything else as well.
And that's where then, like, you look at this and I think it's then like feeding into the pay-per-views that come. I think that's where you've got to be careful, is because we did talk about this feeling like a B pay-per-view, and if people do tag things as being B pay-per-views in their minds, then quality good or not, kind of think they'll almost like place it as like secondary in their minds, and maybe place it as being like, do I need to buy it? Maybe I'll wait and see. And you know what it's like if you don't actually kind of put your money in your pocket, and then the show's maybe good, 7.5 out of 10, 8 out of 10 good kind of thing that people would have enjoyed. If they've not bought it at that point, they might go, do you know what, I'll leave it. I'll see I've seen the results. There was nothing massively of consequence. There was some good matches, but hey ho, there's always good matches. And what you don't want to do is condition your people to think that this is less than this one, so I'll save my money and I'll buy full gear, but I won't buy that. So again, it just just something that I think just need to tread carefully on a little bit. I bought this on Triller, it was like 15 quid or something like that, I think. I felt like I got my money's worth, like for the sake of 15 quid. So again, can't looking at the other way. It's when it's priced at sort of like in that territory, then again probably get away with it a little bit more. It's just when things are maybe just getting, if they are getting ramped up and the quality is not there, then that's when problems arise. But I can't overall I can't complain from that point of view for the value I got, the level of matches that I got, and things that were included really.
Well, we'll run through the undercards as we do and march through. But I think on this occasion we are going to start with that main event to talk about. I think the thing that's colouring a lot of our chat here, and I think most people's feelings coming out of the pay-per-view itself. And of course, is our background here, as you noted off air. It does look like you are literally Nick Jackson's left and right arm there. Yeah, just line it up perfectly. Yeah, that fits. That works well. As the Young Bucks are the story coming out of this pay-per-view, or Booker T, depending on if you believe him, based on his comments and his feud with Swerve that he's going through at the minute. But yeah, Young Bucks is probably where we need to start. Moxley over Swerve, lol, is probably where we need to start. And obviously, you talked a bit about your thoughts on the world title scene in AEW, and we've done plenty of moaning over this world title scene. It was almost like I was just resigned to it this time, though. Like, I think I just didn't buy this was like this big Swerve victory was coming. That, like, I think some people worked themselves into a shoot, maybe expecting was going to come. I think Swerve and Mox, I think for its credit, felt like a big time AEW world title match, just because it's Moxley, who's just been, this incumbent world champion for so long, and Swerve, who's mostly undamaged. He took a few losses over the last year or so, but he's a very strong character when it comes to AEW TV. But it felt like a feud that was in week 2. And if we were going to be doing a big title change and Swerve was going to be the big hero to beat Moxley, you'd probably more be expecting that to happen at, week 6 or week 8 or after a long 10-week build. I never really bought it, which is why I didn't feel as maybe dejected at the end of it as I think a lot of people did. But I think more than being dejected at the result, I was more bewildered at the way they got there. Like, if you were going to just genetically put together just a list of all the things I don't like in current AEW, like this match and this finish had it. It had obviously Moxley is the big ingredient there. The Death Rider's another big ingredient there. I'm not even big on the Ops. Like, felt like they were just out there just to purely make up the numbers so that there's just an excuse. So that we're getting into blood and guts season, aren't we? We're getting into Anarchy in the Arena season, so we need to put some bodies in there so that we can set up some kind of multi-person match later. But like Hangman stuff, very much enjoyed, and the tease they did there running into the show, and the Willy Won'ty I thought was very well done in the closing segments of this match. But the match itself, after dragging that long for it to end so like out of nowhere when it comes to the Young Bucks interference, like, are we supposed to? Is that a connection of the Death Rider / Elite story that we were doing when the Bucks disappeared off TV a while back? I think it's probably more likely to be the other thing I hate about AEW's leaning on these types of stories, which is probably elite melodrama. I think the story's going to be that they were out there to help Hangman and to do what Hangman would want, which was to cost Swerve the victory. And the irony is going to be on this night, Swerve didn't necessarily want that. I'm guessing that's the direction they're going to go. But if anything, it just felt like, I'm sure they're going to logic the way out of it. And I'm sure we're going to be getting lots of explainers coming up. It just felt like a fuck finish at the end of a match that just, like I say, marched to a crawl, really, as it went on. And that's what these Moxley World title matches have turned into at this point.
It's just, I didn't go into it for a single second thinking that like Swerve was winning the title. So like I agree. Like I didn't have that disappointment from the no title change there. That wasn't the thing that clouded it for me. I think it was just sort of the nature of the ending overall, because having gone through that like Mox Cope sort of feud there, where when it's then like pivoted into the Swerve feud, I've been enjoying it. I think Mox has been a bit rehabbed with the Swerve, certainly for me anyway. Watching it, like I've definitely enjoyed his interactions with Swerve on Dynamite and Collision over the last few weeks since then. More than the Cope stuff. I feel like they've just got good chemistry. I think visually they look good, like up against each other in the ring as well. So it's something that I was going into this match like I was more just looking forward to them two having a match and just sort of seeing how they how they worked it and to be honest, like for the most part, I was really enjoying this this main event as we got towards the end again in ring. I just thought there was some good stuff between them. I thought there was they had real good chemistry in there. But as it got towards the end there, it just felt like it felt like Bloodline Rules territory or something like that, where it's just like, and here comes the next person, and here comes the next person, and here comes the next person. Like you just say, like bizarrely, obviously just Samoa Joe and Hook and Shibata getting involved in things. Then that coming down, it was almost just like who else can we make run down? And I don't know if there was any like because I'm just like not on Twitter anymore and things. I don't know if there was any like tease of the Young Bucks been ready to come back at all. But when the lights went out, it didn't even cross my mind. It didn't cross my mind for a second that it was going to be the Bucks. I was like, I was surprised. I was surprised completely when I the lights get and it was the Bucks in the ring. I was like, what? And I wasn't surprised in like a good way. I was surprised in a bizarre way. I was just like why these now? Like at this point, why are they interjecting them into this? Everything about it just felt wrong as soon as I saw their faces on TV, and then obviously for it to work into the end, and you sort of sat there and then you're stewing over it and thinking like, well, what does this mean? Because again, like I enjoyed that interaction with Hangman and Swerve on TV. The other, like, was it last week? Where sort of Swerve admitted he deserved it, and there was that kind of like that little moment between Hangman and Swerve that like made the beef been over kind of thing, and then obviously the Hangman interaction here into this match, and you thought, that was intriguing to see. Well, where does this kind of like pivot going down that lane? But throw the Bucks into the mix, and you're just like, oh Christ, like who wants to see that? Like,
that's it. I could imagine JP's reaction to it as Rod and Todd kind of injected themselves into it. That's it, and I think it felt out of nowhere to kind of go back to the Hangman and Swerve stuff, and I did love that interaction, and I do like that kind of, well, they're both baby faces now, and it is kind of the little check mark next to Swerve's name, isn't it? As a baby face that he did, try to kill Hangman at one point, and Hangman did burn down his house at one point, which is a bit of a blemish on his character as well. But it makes logical sense that the two of them would come together. And I think if we're looking at it from a wrestling point of view, like, I think that's what we're leaning into. We're getting tag matches. We're getting Swerve and Hangman versus the Young Bucks, because that's the thing. Any other TV show, because it feels a bit like a TV show, the Swerve and Hangman stuff, that wouldn't be the direction. But the thing about wrestling booking is there's always a match at the end of the line of it, isn't it? And that's going to be the match, because Hangman just can't get away from the fucking Young Bucks. Even that element of it that I do enjoy, as far as like Hangman and Swerve, like interactions just get sullied by the Young Bucks of all people getting back involved, and that's the only act I can think of in recent memory of AEW that I've been as down as I have the Death Riders. And yeah, I unfortunately didn't have the same level of enjoyment at times that you got out of the match. For me, it was just, I think the point in the card it was, even though I watched it in two separate sittings, you could feel it in the crowds that the crowd just weren't there for the 30-minute. And I think maybe the reason maybe you liked it might be the reason I didn't like it, is the deliberate slower pace of it. I don't think it was the time in the night for that. It's a catnip for yourself, mate, but just not for me at this point in night for the story that I'm just not invested in one bit. And I say that as someone who did think Swerve but Moxley's game up a bit, did make it feel like a genuine world title program in the ways that I think Mox's world title programs haven't felt in the last while. But for me, it was the wrong match for the night, especially with what felt like a predictable ending at the end of it as well. I think they could have halved it for time, and I guess a lot of that time was taken up by the bloodline rules nonsense towards the end of it. I suppose that's part of the reason it runs so long. But yeah, I think it was just rather than just being a quick death for me, and if Tony Khan is going to stick to his guns, and it seems like he is, and we are going to a Darby Allin, John Moxley title change, if not maybe somebody else, could be Ospreay, maybe All In time. you've kind of just got to accept that people like Swerve are going to be challenger of the month. And I think if you're going to do that, I think maybe, a quicker bloodletting rather than slowly letting the match bleed out would have been the one for me. But like I say, all that was always forgotten when it came to the end of the night, and the Bucks being involved is just, the icing on the cake for it all. Absolutely. Connor's probably right. Oh, fuck off was probably muttered by JP, I would guess.
I can only hope that it's, again, you're like trying to look at things and think about this direction, and you think, okay, well, if it's the Swerve Hangman versus the Bucks route, and obviously, Hangman's involved in the tournament, isn't he? And like, I don't know, like I keep trying to think of like a moment or something. There's obviously there was the whole thing like early on with like Darby Allin and that being the route and things, and again that just, I don't know, that almost just doesn't feel right. I feel like the way that Hangman's been over the last few weeks and months and things, like Hangman probably feels like the person who should beat him. I think personally, like I think he's sort of ready to have that position, and if it's something where it's like Swerve actually helping Hangman to win the title, and then it's almost like that sort of story of I'm never gonna, Hangman to Swerve of like, I'll make sure you never win the title again, and then Swerve helping him, get to that point and him win the title. It's a nice kind of like full circle, and it's quite a nice story, kind of, as a loop, something like that. I think, and if the Bucks ends up being like a vehicle as part of that, like a stepping stone of the Swerve Hangman relationship, and it almost been this extension of the Swerve Hangman relationship, then to get to that point, and it's probably something I can stomach for, a 6-week run on TV or something like that, as we get to we get things to the next level. The danger is if Hangman just gets bogged down and dragged back into the elite world kind of thing, and can't almost like escape from that. That's when you start to sort of get a bit nervous about it. But
story, the AEW's version, isn't it?
We will see. Yeah,
elite law. It's what we fucking love. But yeah, for me, I don't know who it's going to be at this point. I never thought it was going to be Swerve. I just want it to be anybody soon, because it's just a noose over AEW right now, and it's just, I said it at the time, and I don't think it was a popular take at the time when they did the original Bryan angle, which for me, I think is the only time I personally enjoyed the Death Riders this entire run. Like, I just don't think at that point in AEW's time, and I think things have improved somewhat now, it was the time to do such a miserable story, and I think that's what it is. I think you can do sad endings, but I think there's a time for them, and I think you can get away with it when it's compelling, which this story just isn't, Moxley's performances just aren't. Like, what happens after he loses the title? Like, I think he's just going to disappear from TV. I think, like, Steph's kind of theory on it is we never see Moxley on AEW TV again once he loses the belt. And, like, it's probably, like, some kind of, I don't know, bargaining tool that AEW have got over Moxley to keep him around at this point, because he doesn't necessarily look fussed or motivated by it all. I don't think it's bringing out his best side from a match point of view. Obviously, we can agree to disagree there as well. But I just think it is at a point where I think most people, ourselves included, want to be positive about AEW and note the gradual improvements and note the little bits of TV that have been largely better. It always ends with a but, and when the but is the world title scene, and when the but is the end of your show here, that's the reason why, fair or unfair, people are going to go on Cage Match and slap a 6 on this show, or back in the day, the grapple app, which the t-shirts of which you're rocking proudly there. It probably would have hit every match by half a star, or maybe that was the genius behind it. Matches rather than overall show rating. But I think it just is a general just bad mood around AEW still, despite the other positives we're about to talk about on the show, and it's all because of this main event and this sticking to the plan, and whatever the plan might be.
And you bring up Cage Match there, and it's naturally show ends, go on Cage Match, just have a look, see what scores people are giving and things like that, just to get a feel for it. And I feel like as I'm like, you're looking at some like Moxley stuff and things, and there's noughts been thrown in, and 0 stars getting thrown in, and 1 star. And,
you're always against that in the grapple days, mate. 0.25 was always the minimum.
As much as as much as things are like disliked or as bad as things are, the scores there that are getting thrown in that are like ridiculously low. They're almost like protest low, I think, in a lot of instances. And that's where you then have to look at things and you go, okay, you've got a plan, you want to stick the course. But then if you're then creating such sort of like a negative online discourse around your main event product because people are, rating it even worse than the reality is that it probably is. It's just this kind of like perpetual negativity, and you've just got to break that cycle because you can't have people who aren't massively invested or things just seeing things at that level. You can't be creating that sort of ring of negativity around it. So I'm all for having a long-term plan and working towards something and having kind of layers that you've got thought out that you're building into it. But it's wrestling at the end of the day. You can't just stick with something when it's not working in the hope that it's all going to run to what you've laid out on your A4 pad of paper, because this is how you talk about like react to the crowd and things like that. You've got to do it. This is why AEW have missed the boat in the past as well, when there's been hot reactions to people at certain times and then they haven't pulled the trigger on them early enough, and then when they have pulled the trigger it's been too late and things, because there's been this almost like compliant requirement to stick to what's in the pad, and sometimes you've just got to pivot and you've got to do something different, because how many times in wrestling has that worked out for the best when plans change kind of thing, and then something else happens and the window of opportunity opened for somebody else to kind of move up the card or something like that. Sometimes you just
or for another company to come along. Like, that's why AEW exists. AEW exists because we were all fucking, Matty will disagree with us, we were all fucking sick to the back teeth of 20 years of that. 20 years of we know better, 20 years of shite WWE where they stuck to plans and they, the old joke code heat, like heat on heat on heat was what that promotion was. Like, that's what created the fertile ground for someone to go, you know what we're going to do? What we're going to do, we're going to create a wrestling company that actually entertains the fans and gives them what they want and, listens to them and all of the things that were AEW's, USP at the start. And like, that's the feeling you kind of get out of Tony Khan in the presser post this show is like, well, you guys don't see all the metrics. All the metrics are improving, and I bet they seem like they are. I don't know if I still don't fully believe the match story. I still don't believe, we're talking millions when it comes to Dynamite each week at this point. But I do believe, there's been a lesser, the softening of attendances and the softening of the bleeding of, TV ratings does seem to have subsided somewhat. And I think that's broadly because the fan base is a little bit more satisfied than they were 6 months ago. But that's the thing. You want to keep that fan base satisfied. And when you don't keep that fan base satisfied, or when you give an excuse like, Tony Khan seems very defensive over the idea, well, no one's talking about, the other stuff on the card, or what about all, the other things to be positive about, people will be drawn to the negative. And when the negative, as the chat is saying there, is your world champion who hides the world title in a briefcase and is kind of holding that, both in storyline and in reality, holding that main event scene hostage in AEW right now, you're going to create that bad feeling, and you are the heel promotion. And, unbelievably in 2025, we live in a world where, AEW is kind of the heel promotion in a lot of ways, and WWE for a lot of people is the babyface promotion right now. And that's the exact opposite of the circumstances that led to AEW being created. And that's exactly why that is so important, that fan service and that fan satisfaction, whatever we think about the other product, is gigantically important, and that's why the sea change has been. Did you have any other thoughts on the main event before we circle back round and do talk some of that undercard that Tony Khan so much wants us all to talk about and to lead into? But anything more on the main?
I mean, I thought, in terms of the match, I don't think there's anything like specifically more to break down. I think it is just so, it is just so overshadowed by the ending, and then I guess the reaction, to the ending that's clearly out there. I don't, the reality is, spots or things that happened in that match that I know I was enjoying up to a certain point, they're almost just forgotten. Kind of, it's almost just like they've, just washed away anything that went before, just because of that moment with the ending of the main event. So, it's
know what they needed with all that interference? They needed like somebody's, elderly mum, an auntie to come out of the crowd, and the way that led to a reversal of the finish in an earlier match. But 27 people can interfere in the main event and nobody cares. I don't know. Maybe some of that logic could be plugged. Maybe that's a bit of a criticism to throw at it as well. But no, agree. All didn't matter at the end, but that's the main event. And we'll circle back around as we go. But as we go back to the top of the night, did you manage to see any of the pre-show? We won't spend too much time on it. I feel like the name Anthony Bowens is the main thing to talk about here, coming out of the 0 hour, which was free on YouTube, Amazon. It was everywhere, unavoidable last night, which is a positive.
Yeah, and this is almost like a perfect pre-show angle / match, isn't it, for them to have, really? Like, how many pre-shows of AEW pay-per-views have just been, throw them three up against them three, and go out and have a match, and you're looking at it and thinking, like, this is before people are going to have to sit down and watch 5 hours of actual like matches as well. It felt like when I saw it was 2-match card. One of them's a 1-minute match. It's more of an angle than a match to bring him back. It just felt like kind of the right thing. It's what it should be there. And I've got to be honest. I've been looking forward to Anthony Bowens getting back and just see how
you see something there.
Yeah, see how, 100%. I've always been like a fan of his work in the Acclaimed. I just think he's got it in ring, and he's got while I don't think he's absolutely like dripping with charisma or anything like that, I think he's got a sufficient amount of charisma to get over on his own, as a singles act. But like, he looks great. He can work. He can genuinely work, and I think he can connect with the crowd as well. And when he came down that ramp last night, he just looked $1 million, didn't he? Kind of, if I was, just to
spend some money on that. Not sure about it. Didn't look great, but it looked expensive.
Yeah. I was going to say, I wasn't sure about the little sort of like shortcut, but just him. He just looked like he looked awesome. He looked like a proper guy kind of thing coming out there. So I think Platt saying in the chat this was the time to ditch Billy Gunn from the act. Absolutely. Maybe a one-night deal kind of thing because of obviously the caster thing there, but yeah, he just needs to be his own man now and just go out with that. And I don't see, he's not a guy who I would see in the main event picture anytime soon in the next 3 years or anything like that, but as a guy who can bring something a bit different to the mid cards, probably in and around that TNT title, who's going to be entertaining on TV and have good matches. Like, definitely good to see him back. Like, feels like a fresh shot in the arm for sort of that level of the card.
It's an odd one, just in that, like, I think people like undersell how over they were as an act at one point, having gone to like live shows in 2022 and 2023, like, and seeing the lack of, unfortunately, of firm scissor fingers, but seeing the amount of people in the crowd. I'll fight that battle to my dying day. They put them out way too late, but just seeing the people, with the merch on in the crowd and going mad for them. They work, despite the fact that Billy Gunn is there, which makes it an obvious comparison. They were the New Age Outlaws for this kind of AEW generation. For how over they were, it is a little bit odd though at the same time that like them, splitting up and having kind of like this final coming together as a singles is, like you said, this match that's less than a minute and comes off the back of Max Caster doing, that gimmick that always gets people over, a losing streak gimmick, which in fairness, crowd were into, and they do react to the stuff that he throws out there. But it's definitely lesser than I thought it would be. At the time they come to split these up. If anything, I thought there was going to be more mileage in these two as a team longer term. But I think it is, like you say, Bowens is very clearly feels like the start of the two, and it was Caster that was a bit of an anchor on the team as well as Billy Gunn over the last while. I think it's him specifically. I think the act got stale, but I think him specifically got stale in that act. So it is about time to give Bowens a run. I'm not so sure. I don't know whether, as far as like his upside, but there's certainly enough there to try, and there's certainly enough goodwill and overness of the act that's kind of baked in, and all of that TV time that they had over the years that's kind of baked into him, that's gonna give him good reactions every time he comes out, Billy Gunn or not. That makes it worth trying, doesn't it? That makes it worth at least giving a go to see if, they're giving Frankie Kazarian, TNT title shots. They're giving Scorpio Sky those types of spots on cards, haven't they? Anthony Bowens is one where it's like, I'm not so sure I see the upside, but if I was the booker, I'd absolutely give it a shot. I'd roll that dice and see what happens, especially like as a reward for how over the act was at a given time and how important it was to AEW at one point.
And definitely, I think that there's something there where you can have, obviously, Caster on this losing streak. He's not going to suddenly start winning or anything like that. He's not going to suddenly start being, they've almost like stripped that credibility away from him. Like,
it's a weird way to go about it, isn't it?
With the way
like the normal logic would be win a load of matches and then Bowens beats him instead of Bowens being like the 10th person to pin him. It's very strange. It is weird.
I see him more as, I can see legs here though in him as a mouthpiece with like, right. I could see him with a big fucker. Like if they put him with some like big bastard now who comes in and just goes after Anthony Bowens and then the few
Billy Gunn will have his hand up.
There with yeah, he'll be in there to take a few W's.
Chuck Palumbo to him. Get him in.
Take a few.
I was on his motorbike somewhere.
W's along the way. Yeah, he's fixing bikes. He's too busy fixing bikes. But you can see that. You could see him as the mouthpiece. Oh, I'm the best wrestler alive. But I'm not gonna wrestle you. He is kind of thing. There's a shtick there that he can get over with, and he does get reactions from crowds, like on the mic, like definitely the way that he's like got over his like little lines and things like that as he's been losing these matches, and just that kind of like consistency and repetition and engagement there. So while I can't see Max Caster in isolation having many legs beyond this, I could see him as some kind of pairing as a mouthpiece for somebody else. That there's definitely an opportunity there to bring someone sort of fresh and different there, because he will get reactions, definitely.
Well, kicking off the main show and talking of giving people a shot and giving people a chance, we had Will Ospreay and Kevin Knight in the Owen Hart tournament. Very interesting match to kind of watch. We said it again in the preview for this one. It did feel, again, I think this card with the main event that was lacking a little bit. A bigger Ospreay match on the show might have been the thing to go for, but obviously the Owen is going on, and it kind of makes sense to give these matches a bit of space on the pay-per-views. And I think I think Jay White was probably the original. In fact, was the original plan, wasn't he, for Ospreay? So that probably would have been a higher prestige match. But as far as like a plan B. And again, I think you get away with it more if there were, heavier duty matches on this undercard. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think the positive coming out of a few negatives there is giving Kevin Knight, the best possible introduction to AEW. And I think the tag match on Dynamite did the job of that. And I think the singles match did the job of it. I think it was maybe on the lower end of my expectations for it. It was very good. And it was very much it felt like an Ospreay match. Like there were literally like points in the match where you could kind of see Ospreay with his arm around Kevin Knight, kind of leading him through different spots in the match, and Kevin Knight's kind of, it's kind of part character, part like just who he is in general, like his exuberance. A couple of those drop kicks that I think JP mentioned on Dynamite, whiffed a little bit. He jumps just that little bit too high because he's so excited to be in there and like do these big spots with an Ospreay, but he didn't make of a show of himself either. I thought it was a good showing from him, if not a great showing from him, and as maybe predicted, Ospreay gave him plenty of offense as well. So the very clear win was always going to be Will Ospreay, but I think the job of Ospreay also was to put a bit of a shine on Kevin Knight. And for somebody who I think a lot of AEW people who watch AEW wouldn't have known if you weren't watching those New Japan USA shows, or you weren't watching them team up with the DKC. Who I'd say we watched it, we just previewed it every week on the weekend show at him. It felt like with him, it felt like again, a great introduction for him, and I think a lot more people know his name coming out of it. So it's job done, even if it maybe slightly underdelivered for me. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go into it thinking like, oh, this is going to be one where they're going to like pull out of the stops and this is going to be a 5-star match caliber or anything like that. I think it was more kind of going into it and thinking like, yeah, it's a good opportunity really for Kevin Knight. Let's see what he's all about. Not somebody I've watched like a significant amount of in the past. So again, just that opportunity and like I think this match. When I say it's perfect, like, I don't mean it's perfect as in it is a 5-star match. I mean, it was perfect for exactly what it needed to be. Like, it was, I thought that the way that this match was structured, I think, with kind of Kevin Knight, I think early on, they were sort of like presenting that he was sort of a bit like, he was a bit sort of like plucky, coming back with his little rallies, throwing in his, the lariats, throwing in the drop kicks and things like that, breaking up that early Ospreay dominance before then actually starting to like capitalize and get the better of Ospreay and, spending the majority of that sort of, certainly probably from about 40% of the match onwards, been on top for, vast majority, give him loads of opportunity to have a lot of shine. Ospreay didn't need to do everything that Ospreay normally would because why should he? He doesn't need to go out there and do the full repertoire of things. His role in this match was to give Kevin Knight that element of bit of a rub and kind of get the opportunity to sort of demonstrate what he can bring to the table. And I almost think like they kind of exceeded that like to some degree because I think that live crowd bought it. There was a couple of 2.99 kickouts sort of towards the end of the match there, and the crowd bit on it and they believed on it. And if you'd have said to somebody going into the match, Kevin Knight or Will Ospreay, 100 out of 100 people would have said Will Ospreay is winning this match. So to get that kind of element of belief in this new guy, from the way the match was that was worked, I thought was excellent. I thought it was real like first class stuff, and I think with it, because Ospreay didn't need to hit the full repertoire of moves or hit the full extent of the offense that he normally would, like he gave so much to Kevin Knight in this match, and Kevin Knight gained so much in this match, but Ospreay lost absolutely nothing again because of the finish, the quick rapid finish. At the end of the day, when he needed to get the win, Ospreay got the win. Like he put him away. Like at the end, nice and clean. 1, 2, 3. He's had a near escape there. He's against sort of the young up and comer, and ultimately he's, I think, say Kevin Knight's gained more than that in defeat because of the presentation of the match and the way that things were structured more than like, remember how like Action Andretti beat Chris Jericho? Like you don't have to, sometimes you can lose and win, and like it's better to lose and win, I think, in a scenario rather than this, because the flip side is Action Andretti won, but he lost. Like really, kind of thing, because what came after it, and to me, this was almost like a picture perfect version of what they should have done with these two wrestlers at this particular time. Got a lot of enjoyment out of it.
No, that's fair enough, and I think for me, it's kind of like I get what you're saying. I think the crowd did buy the near falls, but it was one of those where I'm watching it going like they haven't sucked me into them. Like what they did suck me into though.
Me either.
That's it. But to your point, what they did suck me into was Ospreay hitting like the Stars Clash. That felt like I would have bought in a match against somebody that's at such a lower level as Kevin Knight, that Ospreay didn't need as a move to win. That could have been the finish. And him getting that kick out of that made it feel like, oh, we're not quite going to the full balls to the wall, like, finishing sequence and flurry of 2 count kickouts. But like you said there, kind of that subtle nod of Ospreay needing to pull out the hidden blade to get the win, needing to literally kill him to do it. Like, because he's got that as his kill shot, hasn't he? He's got the Tiger Driver as his kill shot, but it's almost putting him over by having to use that move and having to go to that level. And like I say, the commentary were very much buying into like the near falls at that point. But even then, even there, as he hit kind of that hidden blade, which did feel like it came a little bit out of nowhere, which did feel just that touch little bit extra desperate. It was okay, well, that's it, full stop. That's the end of the match. Good day for you, kids. Thanks for coming along. But the fact that it took that does kind of subtly tell you, doesn't it, that Ospreay needs to pull out his big guns to win. And there's an art to doing that without having to go, the full Kurt Angle route of 15 minutes of kickouts at the end of it. Or TNA Kurt Angle, maybe not WWE Kurt Angle.
Yeah. And that's where Ospreay kind of like held things for me is, him losing nothing. It's because it's like when it's like, all right, I've got to put this to bed. Like, bang, I've put it to bed. Like, job done. Kind of, that's how elite I am. Kind of thing is when I need to do that, I do it and I win. Kind of, and that was a nice kind of nice punctuation there. And like you mentioned, the Styles clash with the kick out. There was that. It's where I can't even almost describe. There was that spot like slightly earlier that then I think it made the Styles clash that was hit like more effectively. It was like where
on the outside,
where it set him up in ring like for a Styles clash, but then it sort of turned almost into like a powerbomb attempt. But Knight rotated like right through kind of and like. I think I rewound that about like 5 times trying to, because it was so slick, so perfect, so fast. I was like, how the fuck have they done that? Kind of like it was an incredible spot, that like absolutely brilliant. But then when he did put him in that Styles clash position, I thought, oh, game over, done, job done with the Styles clash as well. So that's something I did bite on, was that kick off there, because I think I was kick out there, sorry, because I think I was typing 1, 2, 3 into my notes at that point. I was like, whoa. But yeah, love it. Like, really enjoyed it. Like, what a good way to start the show.
Yeah, and there was 2 of those. I think Ospreay gave him 2 of those counters, and I think there's no better base than Ospreay for a spot like that, because Ospreay used to be Kevin Knight. Ospreay used to be the guy who was doing. He still does those moves to the level he does them, but he's the perfect person to know where to be and how to bump it to get the most out of that bump as well. So yeah, those little moments do stick out on the brain as well. And yeah, it was the perfect chase to go on first on the show.
I do have my concerns though, because it's Jet Kevin Knight, and Kevin Knight rhymes with top flight. I see 6-man tag team titles in his future. Unfortunately,
isn't it? And it's like it's the Tron video he's got, where it does look like it's like Jet 2 Airlines. It feels like a budget airline, like they do, doesn't he? Like they're Ryanair and he's Jet 2, but he's like he's like that level above, isn't he? He's EasyJet or like the lower end of British Airways or something like that. I'll probably let that go. Anytime somebody tags him on Twitter and is at something like Jet 2 Fly, Kevin Knight, let's just forget that. Let that be one of those nicknames you had early in your career that 3 years on none of us talk about anymore. I think we need to maybe rush to that point.
Move on now. You're on telly.
Yeah, exactly. You're on proper telly now. Let's go. Although some would say New Japan Strongest TV. I'm not one of those. Some we can use them tomorrow if you're so pilled. But yeah, we went from there as the opener to the second match, which was Hurt Business versus Big Bill and Brian Keith. Obviously, the tag division is pretty much on fumes right now. The tag division is pretty much the Hurt Business right now. I am hurt personally by our prediction of MJF putting the former MLW Dynasty stable together on Dynasty, the show. Just feels like something that would be very MJF to go around and do. Instead, he was pretty much involved in really, it just felt like a TV finish, and that's really what this match was. I think it's a positive, I would say, that the Hurt Business are leaning into the babyface side of things now. They can't help but be a babyface team when they come out looking like $1,000,000 with the incredible theme song that everybody wants to sing along to anyway. And I've kind of enjoyed the way AEW have just subtly realigned them. They've changed nothing about them. They're still the Hurt Business. They're still pretty much getting involved in the same types of segments, but they're just subtly putting them in there with heels more. And obviously, the MJF story is, of course, going to end with MJF and somebody else being the heel tag team against the Hurt Business, or in some kind of singles match, maybe with Bobby. But yeah, I don't know. I think the team that were in there with Big Bill and Brian Keith have had better days, and for me, it was just a match in the end, and yeah, just a setup to do the angle at the end and to continue the soap opera on of which I am getting a bit of enjoyment out of, whether MJF is going to join the hate business or not, which he did tweet right after the show where we hate people, which I quite enjoy the idea that the character of MJF just sees no issue with or no problem with why he couldn't possibly join the hate business. I am getting a kick out of it, but TV stuff for me, this really, and not much more.
Yeah, I mean, the match itself, definitely nothing to write home about. I think where you talk about like the MJF involvement there from being an act that him turning up on TV for so much time in past months and just feeling like, oh, just go away, like I just don't want to listen to you anymore, being like such a downer on his promos. I have enjoyed this kind of crossover with the Earth Syndicate over the last couple of
on the back
weeks.
of the Hangman stuff as well, like mostly been positive press for MJF for a little while now.
It feels like they've just turned the dial down on him a little bit, or he's maybe just checking himself in terms of some of his worst sensibilities of things that he would normally be coming out and saying on the mic and things. So it's almost like not as grating, or it's not as almost passe that he's the things that he's coming out with there. And it is an intriguing one, this sort of like level involvement there. And I did get a kind of a kick out of him, sort of looking over the guardrail at them, from his point during this match. But in this, like, I thought, like, the two things for me was I just thought Big Bill looked great again. Like, I feel like he gets
there's money there.
There's so many opportunities, and this is someone where we talked previously about triggers being pulled and not, and sometimes you just have to change and go in a different direction, and that, like, there's something there, and if they don't utilize it soon, they're going to miss the boat completely. Because again, for all the in-ring work and everything like that, when it comes to wrestling, people still love big, massive fuckers who have got a bit of charisma about them and things. It doesn't matter, moves with a Z or mat work or anything like that. If someone's got a bit of presence and they're and they've got a physical presence as well, and they're getting over with live crowds, you should utilize them better. And I think it's a crime that he still hasn't been pushed to any different degree. I thought
we're pretending we haven't lived this already. We're pretending like we didn't do this with the Ricky Starks tag team. When he got over in the tag team and he was ready to do something more. Like, even if you go back to that Cardiff Dynamite last year, remember how over he was there? Like, we've done this.
Yeah.
Like, it's happened already. Almost like Jericho's hoodwinked AEW into, oh, I'll get him over. And all they've done is like make him less over, and now we're pulling him back up to exactly where he was before.
Yeah.
Like, he was poised for this then. Like, why are we just repeating ourselves and doing it again? It makes no sense.
Yeah, people thought Ricky Starks was the star of the act, and then very quickly he realised that he was just an also-ran alongside the monster train of charisma that is certainly not. But I thought Lashley was crap in this. I was really surprised. I thought he looked sloppy. I thought his timing looked off. I thought he was bumping really weird or something. I was looking at him thinking, is he injured? Like, because it just, whether it was just the match or just different opponents or just some sort of slight different style or something, I thought he looked awful. And I was just sort of thinking, just get a less is more with him, maybe get Shelton in there doing a bit more. But because I was disappointed with that. And,
I thought
I think
two were like, they were competent for me. I feel like because there were a few missed spots, weren't there, in the match that kind of went wrong, and maybe it's not fair to lay the blame at like Keith and Big Bill, but yeah, I think you kind of get that with Lash, because you're like me, you've lived through Shelton Benjamin in PCW and Shelton Benjamin on his very professional days. Like, it felt like obvious going into this, but it was kind of like, this is either going to really surprise you and be an awesome hoss fight, or Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin are going to treat this like the 2.25 star ordeal it should be and give you a professional performance and no more or less. And that's the negative, isn't it? They've all also kind of got that in them, where it's like they look at the card and go, nah, not tonight. It might just be that, or depending if there is an injury or something.
But they did. Shelton did have the spot of the match. I loved that, was where Big Bill was where he was looking down the hard cam and Shelton came from behind him and fucking suplexed him, which it was just a great, it was great visual lad as well, with obviously the size of him getting, you know, suplexed as well from behind. That was probably the thing that jumped out there. But it did feel, you know, with MJF nailing Big Bill over the guardrail with the diamond ring, it was an angle match, wasn't it? It was EWR, wasn't it? It was like an advancement of the storyline between the Hurt Syndicate and MJF, really, as opposed to an actual match. Yeah.
Yeah, every one of my cards will be like that. I can't give Tony Khan any grief. Every one of my matches ended in interference or interference after the bell, because then it wasn't really interference and it all count towards your match rate, and it was worth doing. But yeah, that's exactly what this was. And again, this is one of the ones where I think you could make a very strong argument for not needing to be on the show. Could have been a collision match, but I get the need to keep MJF involved in a pay-per-view, even if he doesn't have a match. And yeah, like I say, I was high on the Hangman stuff, and when he's not, even when I'm negative on MJF, because he's such a big star in the AEW ecosystem, I think the pay-per-views miss him when he doesn't have an important match on the show. Like, that's me giving him credit when I haven't always enjoyed it, even when they put him in those spots. But you can feel the miss, can't you? You know, and it's probably good for him to reset and be in a tag feud and, you know, do something a bit different like he's doing here. But there is also that knock-on effect as well, I think, especially when, you know, Hangman's not on the show either. That's big characters there, isn't it? Kind of missing in action. But yeah, if nothing else on that, we went to the next match, which was again Mercedes Moné and Julia Hart, and more Owen Hart tournament stuff. And I kind of made this point, like, leading into this match, that I feel like Mercedes have quietly had a good year. I think in matches, they've not been 5-star matches, but like, they've always been, oh, that was pretty good. Oh, that was pretty good. Like a pay-per-view record this year, you know, against challengers of the month who haven't got a chance, have mostly been good stuff. You know, you're not going into crazy ratings and star rating wise, but this for me felt like the weakest of the ones so far. I think you can put some of that blame on Mercedes, but I think it was mostly just Julia Hart having 2 left feet in this one. There were multiple really, really ugly spots in it. There was a point halfway through the match where, again, watching this live on Discord, it was kind of like, and this just doesn't happen in wrestling these days, because everything, you know, is laid out and they've got another 5 minutes worth of match in them. But genuinely, somebody should just tap them on the shoulder and go, "Girls, take this home." Like the next 5 minutes, like I said on the Discord, if I could have put a bet on, like, you know, the way when you got like live and play betting for the footy and it's like a corner coming up, if I could have bet on another big botch coming up in those last 4 or 5 minutes, I would have laid my entire savings that I've got set aside for me every travels this year on it, because you knew it was coming. And there were so many of those little awkward moments in it that just didn't work, whether it was a chemistry thing on the night, or it's, you know, Julia Hart's comparative experience. There's a lot of talk about, you know, she's the type of person you would send on more excursion. And I suppose the counterpoint is she's the type of person who needs to be in spots like this to ever get any better. Either way, I think the result was an ugly match that didn't really fit with, I think, the overall good record I think Mercedes had this year. Any difference on take from you?
No, I mean, it's. I sort of realised as I was getting close to the end of the match that I'd basically not been writing any notes about it, sort of thing. So I can always tell that that's something where it's not drawn me in, and I'm just sort of like, I'm almost kind of staring at what's going on as opposed to thinking of it, you know, properly. I think, to her credit, I think the live crowd got behind Julia.
They did.
The
bank statement reversals at the end, or the moneymaker, whatever she calls it, that got way more over than I thought it almost deserved at that point in the match. But fair play, it was over.
Yeah. And I think there is something there, like, that, you know, from a crowd connection point of view. I think from a character point of view, how the way she's sort of taken on that character and, you know, bought into it, the way she presents herself and, you know, holds herself in ring and things. Clearly there's more in-ring reps, you know, needed. And I guess kind of as I sat and stewed on this before the next match started, I was probably more thinking along the lines of, well, that's probably good for her then, just getting in the ring and just getting, you know, working that match with Mercedes, someone that experienced on pay-per-view. Probably sit down, look at it, look at some things that worked, look at some things that didn't work and things. And, you know, I know pay-per-view is not the situation where you should be in that learning environment. And, you know, certainly somebody who's carried the belt in the past as well. But, you know, if you're almost sort of looking for those those positives. At least she was getting she was getting the fan reaction to it. They didn't just check out completely at those earlier points. And I have to totally agree with you on Mercedes, because I remember being on a podcast with you probably, I don't know, I'm guessing September, October last year, and I was just like, just fucking, how much money are they paying with her? Just fuck her off. She's bringing nothing to the table at all. Like she didn't. She didn't appear to be connecting with crowds. The matches weren't that good. The feuds that she was in just seemed to have like nothing particular behind them. But I almost feel like, do you know what it feels like? When I see her, I feel like she's enjoying herself this year, and I think that feels like that's having a big bearing. Like, I feel like she's kind of like comfortable in her setting and in her role, and she's like the opponents that she's been working with and things like that. She just seems to just have a bit of, I don't know. There's a bit more life about her maybe, or something, than there was last year, where I think she looked a bit stunted, and you were thinking, is she actually mentally here? Is she regretting being here and things like that? There was almost that kind of underlying feel of it. But I think big props to her, and I think the stuff that she's done with Harley Cameron in the run up to that feud was like a real positive. Obviously, that's extended with recent tag things as well. And so as long as if she's keeping working with these people who need a bit of polish, they are further down the card, in between maybe having something that's a bit meatier for her to get her teeth into, then it can only be a positive for the division at the end of the day. But I think if you haven't seen this match and you're questioning whether to go and watch it, don't bother.
Yeah. Another one that could have gone, I think, although I think they like that. It is a negative and a positive, but they like that both of the women's belts have got a match on the pay-per-view, and that's kind of, way to be doing the bare minimum for the division. And it kind of keeps that in. I still like that Mercedes and Tony are in different universes, and at some point, based on the Owen and the outcome of this, maybe they're going to collide. And obviously, we've got the the stuff going on in the background with Athena as well, and Mercedes, which is building nicely. But not one we're going to particularly look back on as a match. But from there we went into one of the big angles of the night, and I've got more to say on the angle than the match. I don't know why, but I'm just going to guess that you were big into the Wheeler Yuta stuff and this one is Wheeler Yuta, Claudio, and Pac took on Adam Copeland and FTR. I don't know. Wheeler Yuta was very much maybe I'm just thinking of going forward when at some point me and you sit down and do some kind of Jimmy Rave deep dive, or maybe the Embassy, as Chris Potter did tease over the weekend. He was very much feeling like that mid 2000s Jimmy Rave Wheeler Yuta, kind of getting the ironic booze that kind of turned into real booze that actually turned into a bit of a match stealing performance, I think, for me. And it's mad. JP's not here. We can say nice things about Wheeler Yuta, but I think it kind of, with that hometown crowd, really worked for him in like the opposite way that a hometown crowd normally does. Whether there's more than a couple of dollars in the name Wheeler Yuta long term, we will see, and whether all that TV time given into him, as JP will often say, is going to work out for the best. But before we get into the post-match angle, which I think is going to be the bulk of the conversation, it was a match, but I think the Yuta stuff entertained me more than I would have otherwise expected. A match with a fair few pros in there that, again, almost felt genetically put together to be the type of match that I would not usually be into.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Yuta guy, so I'm always going to get a bit of enjoyment. I don't like the negativity and criticism when I'm listening and hearing the Yuta hate going on there. It's not there to be the top guy in the stable. Is there to serve a purpose and serve a role, and he serves that role well. And if he's given a bit more in the future, he's definitely got the.
We just not do another. Oh, he might leave. Oh, he maybe doesn't agree with everything they're doing. Can we just not do that arc again? Can this just be his? Can this be his lane now? Being like the runt of the litter, like that. I'm all right with that. Just keep him there. Keep him in that area. That's okay.
His buddy in the Freebirds, that has got that element of that character. But like, I mean, as far as the match goes, it just didn't get going, did it? Like, as a match, like overall, it just, it didn't. It wasn't something that
professional
I was like.
wrestler having a professional wrestling match, mate.
I think even at that level, I think it was sort of like, underperformed. It was a match that just felt stale. It was a match that just felt like they were going out there and just working our match because they were there and they had to put that match on. Obviously, they knew that the post match, and it was all about getting to that post match match angle clearly, and I just think. I don't know. The match itself felt just sort of a touch of a waste to me, to that point of view. And again, it's one of those where it was fine, but there's certainly no sort of detail there for me that you'd want to specifically get into.
In kayfabe terms, like, is that true? Also, like, can we break down what was Cash and Dax's plan here? Was it like, well, we're gonna give it one last try, and if we win, then Cope's our mate still. If we don't win, we're gonna try and polarize and kill him. Like, is that just wrestling logic? Is that just how these wrestlers brains work? Like, why are they sitting through a 15-minute match before we get to the post? I guess you can make that explainer that it's like, the straw that broke the camel's back, or maybe we're supposed to believe that, back the disagreements we've been seeing on screen between Dax and Cash have actually behind the scenes been about, should we fuck this lad off? Should we get rid of him? He keeps causing us problems. He's the issue. It's not us, it's him. He's the problem. Maybe that's the logic behind it, but again, it's like, so wrestling, isn't it, to bother your ass with this match and not just do it at the start. Might have got some help from the other lot if you'd have just turned on him before the bell rang. But then we wouldn't have got our wrestling drama, would we? Complete with Cash going, "Oh, I don't know if I'm going to join you," and then joining them and doing even more violence than Dax did. Wrestling, that's what we do. But that taken out of it, I think it was, memorable, and it was the right call. Like, again, it's something I hadn't really thought about until we talked about it on here. The idea of, oh yeah, you probably will want Dax and Cash to have one last go round with Edge and Christie. You probably want to lead to that tag. You probably want, from Cope's training when he's come back to WWE, he was working with Dax and Cash, wasn't he? He'll probably want that himself. And to be fair, it's probably the best spot for Cope to be in. And to be honest, it's probably the best spot for Christian to be in. Like, I think I was dragged kicking and screaming into enjoying Christian 18 months ago. And I think it's been diminishing returns with this character. I think he's been an entertainer, up a big card heel act, but I think he's done everything he can possibly do in the role. If he gets slid into some kind of willy won't he, join back up with Cope role, I think that's good for him, and it's good for the company to not have Cope in a serious singles role. And I think it refreshes a lot of things. It refreshes the tag division too. It means down the line, if hit business of baby faces, they can go in there, can't they, with Dax and Cash? And Dax and Cash as a heel outfit is not something we've really seen in any real level of detail outside of when they were in that MJF stable in AEW, and that feels like it was 30 years ago at this point. So I think it's a win for all the parties involved. And yes, it was very pro wrestling in execution, but I think it was an effective angle all told.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing of like, oh, we're just gonna put on a show in front of our mate for a few weeks and then wrestle a wrestling match with him before we finally do this at the end. I'm sure there'll be some kind of justification like rolled out to try and make sense of it. But once the angle had happened, like I enjoyed it. It felt like, yeah, this feels about right. I think where you talk there about like FTR having that heel run, like I think I sort of feel ready for an aggressive, nasty FTR heel run. I don't think they've been that horrible heel tag team, which I think they can definitely, they can definitely lean into be a bit more where they're just absolute bastards. I think that's something that definitely will work. The heel side of it, my thoughts immediately went to the Earth Syndicate stuff, as you say there as well, of as they slide babyface, having like a genuine heel opponent for them to work with as well. So definitely helps things there. But I also think, I don't want Cope in the main event picture. I enjoy Christian Cage's his work, like initially as part of that character, but not in the main event picture. Can I stomach Edge and Cope versus FTR in the mid card, like having a feud for 3 months? It's just matches. It's fitting in there, and there's a bit of story behind it, and them going out and working in the middle of a show. Absolutely, and live crowds will get enjoy that. They'll fucking eat it up. It'll just be a an element that you don't need to take that too seriously. You don't need to worry about it that too much. It's it's not going to be something that's so at the top of the cards that is it eating into buy rates or eating into numbers. It's just something there that's just going to be a nice, enjoyable, dare I say it, fun thing to have there in the middle of the card that we don't need to take too seriously or get our fucking knickers in a twist over because you get that last Edge and Christian run, and then you get hopefully FTR just being able to turn it up to 10 from a heel point of view as well before leading on to other areas as well with them. And also with the FTR being heels, it means that we don't have to watch the fucking Young Bucks versus FTR at any point soon either as well.
Until they turn face
another win from my perspective if they're back.
Will says here in the chat that he thinks they should have just attacked Cope at the start of the match and act like they didn't care about the trios titles. When they should have done it when Cope was trying to get the fucking sing-along going again. I fucking hate that. Like that Australian crowd, I've got so much to answer for. Like this pay-per-view crowd were a bit better than the Dynamite crowd. It felt like they knew the words a little bit more. But like, does Everett have to be a moment? Does Cope have to like just do that fake? I can't believe it. Big smile on his face. I didn't expect this. They're doing the thing every crowd does. They're singing my fucking song. Let's just kill that dead. That'd be great. Could we bring back the old Edge and Christian tag team music? We'll just retcon the entire thing and move on from it. Hopefully that's a positive come out of this too.
Yeah, they just need to cut that. They need someone immediately to be coming after so they can play it. This shouldn't be a thing because it was embarrassing. The lack of people singing along on Dynamite the other day. Just
the commentator making fun of it.
Yeah, kill it. Kill it. It was done. It was a good little moment when it happened for the first time. Just don't do it again. And also something that can kill as well is Claudio's jacket with his fucking expenses glued to it that he comes out in as well. I fucking hate that jacket so much. It's just like if we've got in the year end awards of like worst wrestler outfit or something like that, that's nailed on for my fucking top of the list.
It's the opposite end of the scale to when he was the most money-making man in ROH in Chikara. He had the shit suits. Like it was kind of like there was something nice about it then. Now it's like, mate, you're making enough money. We could do better. So yeah, there we go. That was the end of that. And again, it moves people away from each other. It probably moves Edge away from fucking around with I keep wanting to say Death Triangle, Death Riders anymore. But yeah, past that, we went to Toni Storm and Megan Rain, which I think is fair to say was the pick of the women's matches on this show. Again, Megan Rain did feel early to kind of have her in this position, but I think that was probably by design a little bit. Again, another way to put someone pay-per-view, see if they sink or swim, and expose them, I suppose, to more of the fan base, which is what they've very much been doing with Megan Bain over the last while. I think the finish did a good job of keeping her strong and also putting Toni Storm over. And yeah, I think this is the most comfortable Toni Storm we've seen in her own skin. Not sure what she was up to in the press post it, but yeah, as a match goes. Again, on the higher end of Toni Storm matches, I think, in AEW, and really outside the Mariah May matches, one of the stronger ones for me, and it was definitely needed to kind of wash the taste out of the other women's division match on this show for me.
I just can't get enough Toni Storm. Like honestly, I just really.
She's that sweet spot for you, isn't it? Like people might not expect her to be into like some of the lighter hearted characters, I think, in wrestling, but I think she just about scratches that itch with you, doesn't she? She's in that right lane, Toni Storm, to kind of get on your good side.
I remember like being on the show last year and saying how positive to it, and I think JP's face was just incredulous. He couldn't believe.
Yeah, we've been slagging it off for 6 months at that point.
Yeah. You've been slagging it. I came on like, I fucking love it. Or like how invested she was in the character, how much she was just, she was just buying into that role that she needed to play, and it felt like, okay, yeah, this is going to be something that could be a 1 month, 1 month run or a 3 month run or dead short thing. She just seems to just be able to extend it and just like build on that character, and she's just like evolved it beyond them to the extent that now I just think she played, I would say, where I talked about Ospreay playing the perfect role in that Kevin Knight match at the start, I think she played the perfect role in this match as well. I thought this match was booked perfectly in terms of the way it was laid out. Megan Bayne again looked like an absolute killer. Like, you know, despite losing the match, she looked like a fucking killer. She looked so dominant. You know, where they give her the kick out at one out of the Storm Zero and things like that, which is possibly the most protected move, or one of the most protected moves in AEW. You know, the stuff that she hit on Tony with, like, the, you know, the big power moves and things, when she was just like immediately just being able to counter and hit those. You know, she looked like somebody who was genuinely going to give her like loads of problems. Tony having the nous and experience to get the win in the end. It, you know, it was one of those. They've presented Megan Bayne so well on TV, presented her so well, you know, on this pay-per-view here. She lost on the night, but again, she didn't lose a single thing. She still looked like an absolute fucking monster who's a total threat to the title. Tony giving her, you know, absolutely loads there, and then Tony gaining as well by showing that sort of like savviness to come out of it with the with the victory at the end as well. Like, I loved how this match was put together. I thought it was class. Like, just again, I'll always say this when I come on here. I'll like take a step back and I almost think like, who gained out of this match? Who is now above? Who is now further on because of this match? And they're both further on because of this match, and it feels like the title's further on, and then as well, and it sets up a further match with them in the future where you can kind of go into it thinking, oh, Megan might have the beating of her this time because she fucking nearly did it last time, you know, again. So they're leaving a bit of engagement and money on the table with it too. Like, spot on.
Yeah, it's no wonder you liked it, mate. It's very Brett and Diesel filled, isn't it? Speaking of the cup you're drinking out right now, if Brett had to beat Diesel and you're the historian this year, more so than me, it'd be like this, wouldn't it? It'd be a small package. It'd be a roll up. It'd be, you know, something like that. They used his nous to beat the monster, and that's exactly how Megan Bayne was presented here. And again, she's someone who's been a bit of an unknown as she's kind of come into AEW, and they've given her pride of place, plenty of TV time, a big program out the gate, and a loss that you're not going to hold against her, are you? You know, going forward, and she'll be back in this picture in 6 months or in a year in an even stronger position in the card. And dare I say, it'll be going over in that environment if AEW can do the least AEW thing possible and keep her on TV and keep her in these prominent positions in the weeks coming. But as far as a start goes to an AEW run, there's been a couple of blemishes as far as the TV matches have gone, but they've kept focus with her and kept her involved. And I think that's all the reasons you said there, a gigantic positive. And yeah, it was a strong win for Toni Storm, which again sets up that possibility of a Mercedes match down the line if Mariah May's indeed not coming back to AEW. So there's plenty of positive there.
And it's a phrase I'll always say is like, you can lose and win. Like, people seem to lose their fucking minds over people getting beaten. It's like, no, you can lose a match and be more at the end of the match for losing of it. And this was a prime example. You know, as you know, if anyone was thinking that you know, Megan Bayne should walk away with the title in this match, and if she didn't win the title in this match, then she's done and she's like, you know, she's a busted flush or something like that. Like, not at all. You know, this was the perfect example of avoiding that and helping build something rather than just cut the legs off it.
Yeah, and they could have gone too far the other way. They could have been more shenanigans and more bullshit. That, you know, it wasn't quite slip on a banana peel. I think they drew the line about the right place with these two here. But yeah, on from there into what for me was the highlight of the night from an in-ring point of view. Kyle Fletcher and Mark Briscoe again. Owen Hart Cup stuff. I matched it again. Like, the negative of it was it didn't feel hugely prestigious. You know, on a pay-per-view that was lacking that upper mid card big match. But once they got in the ring and what you could probably have guessed, especially with the chemistry and the history that they drew off here with these two in tournament matches, you knew it was going to be great regardless. And Mark Briscoe is one of those people who you can get away with beating, so they beat him a lot. Possibly just that little bit too much, not lots too much. I think he should be losing matches like this, but this should be the loss he should take. He should be winning otherwise. I think for me, Mark Briscoe in AEW is such a valuable, likable babyface, and I haven't always felt like that about Mark Briscoe as a singles act. I think in ROH 2010s when Jay was the champion, or late 2000s into 2010s when Jay was the champion, Mark would lean into being a little bit too comedy based on the undercard. He loved the redneck kung fu and all of that stuff, and he was a bit of a kind of a, there goes Jay's wacky brother. I guess we all knew where the real talent in the team was, but what was always beneath was this incredible performer that he's been. Every time a bell rings in AEW, you are getting 100% from Mark Briscoe, both in real life and as a character, and that's what people buy into and gravitate towards with him in a role like this. And if you want to talk somebody on the up in AEW, it's Kyle Fletcher, isn't it? Despite the ring gear coming out in his bright pink, it was not this Kyle Fletcher look. But again, he's so over and so bombastic and so full of himself at this point in his character that it makes sense for him, and he kind of carries it off, and it's given him maybe that element of personality that we haven't really seen from Kyle Fletcher before. So probably should have guessed it going in. This was going to be a match made in heaven for these two, and they just went out hell for leather. Fantastic match for me. I'd say the absolute match of the night, and the right booking decision. Like I say, I'd like to see Mark Briscoe pick up more wins, but what I'd more like to see, and we talked about it a little bit on our Scrapple, is Kyle Fletcher to follow up the Ospreay stuff and follow up the loss to Ospreay with some more wins and with some more focus and a good run in a tournament like this one. And that's exactly what they're doing. The focus is on him. He's not been forgotten about, and it feels like he's going to continue to be a big project for AEW in 2025. I absolutely love this match, Gareth. What say you?
Yeah, it was my match of the night, and I'm going to go against you here, though, Benno. I fucking loved that pink gear. Like when he came, honestly, when I saw it,
or loved to hate it, one or the other.
I was just like, oh, that is
perfect for him.
That is so 2025 Kyle Fletcher.
Yeah, true.
The fact that it was all pink as well, like just and that shade of pink. Like I just thought, oh, that's just so in fitting with who he is. I thought it was a great look for him, and I think it's that character, like the character side of things that's come out for Kyle Fletcher as well. It's just been like one of the real wins, because I think so much of the personality and character element to him that just didn't know was there, I suppose, or didn't know that was there in the level it is. I think the arrogance that he carries himself in ring is like fantastic, and I think that the way that he puts that across within his style of work. So when he's getting on top in matches, or he's getting on top early in matches as well, he's so slow and methodical about what he's doing in terms of the way that he's walking around, the way that he's looking at the crowd, the way that he's just sort of holding his arms out, almost like admiring himself and who he is and what he's done, and that whole great sort of side of it that comes out of it with that level of arrogance. I think it works, and it works into the level of detail that it goes to, because it gets him in trouble when he's on top. So it gives the babyface an opportunity to get that comeback when Kyle's sort of like toying with them a little bit, or he's just like taking his eye off the ball and he's posing a bit. But then I also think it works into the way that he just little things he does, like when he goes for a cover and things, and he's just like, there's that arrogance about it. He's got his some of his facials I think are really good, where he's pulling that sort of smug smarmy face that he thinks the win's in the bag and things. There was that spot where he'd done the brainbuster on the apron, and then like back in ring there was the arrogant cover. It was a 299 where Briscoe kicked out, and just like Fletcher went from that kind of like arrogant facial to immediately the bugged out eyes, unable to believe that he hadn't won, but it's effectively it was his own fault and his own arrogance that he hadn't won at that point. Like it was excellent. And then when you look at the in-ring work that he's doing, Christ, I enjoy his matches for the way that his working style, the pace that he works at. Some of the moves that he fucking hits are just like brutal. The way that he hits those. I was saying to JP on the weekend show the other week, there ain't a better bumper in wrestling right now than Kyle Fletcher. Like when he's bumping, he makes his opponent look fantastic, like in the way that he's flying about the ring, and the way that he's the way he's landing off the back of things just looks amazing. I just thought all in all with this, I mean, you talk about Mark Briscoe, he does lose too much. He does lose, like you say, slightly too much, but just doesn't seem to affect him. He's just got, if you're almost like, you think of a professional wrestler and you think of like a 1980s or 1990s wrestler, like, I'm not saying from like a level, but like a Randy Savage whose character is just so big that it just jumps through the screen at you. Like Mark Briscoe's just got that quality that he's just, he's that the natural charisma, natural energy that he brings to the ring with his character. Just something that everything about him just says wrestler, like massively positive on there. And there was just some like spots in this that I just enjoyed. Like Kyle landed like that real stiff boot, knocking Briscoe off the apron, and then he powerbombed him on the apron. And then when he did that release powerbomb on the barricade, like fuck me, like that looked like it looked savage, when it was just great in fitting with him as a heel wrestler. I fucking loved that.
Mark's so up for it as well. He's so up for those daft bumps, isn't he? Like he's so up for being like just taken out. Like I think that's the thing about like what was really working about Kyle Fletcher right now is that he could just be a moves and a good match factory. Like that could be him, and that would be fine. I think for a lot of the AEW audience, we'd still be going, "Oh, look at that! There's Kyle Fletcher, like living up to his potential." But the fact that, like you said there, so much of it is built-in character, so much of like that finish is kind of, it feels sinister. Like when he hits that brainbuster on the top rope, it feels like he's putting his whole body into it. When he counted the froggy bow when Briscoe went for the second one with the boots, and then immediately followed it up with that finish, it kind of showed like that killer instinct that is perfect for his character, perfect for that character who's like a cocky dickhead who'll wear the ridiculous things he wears and talk the shit he talk, but will back it up in ring as well. He's balancing both of those things. It's a hell of a thing to see someone who, like, obviously I think we count him as one of ours, don't we? As far as like, I'm sure he wouldn't want to be called a Brit, but as like a Brit Res guy or a guy who came up in Brit Res, you kind of take as, and someone who you saw potential in. But how many people do you see potential in, or how many people do you hear, like, because it was Tanahashi, wasn't it, originally put him over as like, oh, that lad's got potential, and then nothing comes of it, or they don't quite suit it. We are literally seeing in real time him living up to that potential and clearly listening to the right people, whether it be Ospreay or whether it be other veterans in the back, kind of giving him advice from a character point of view. You can see it all coming across in screen. You can see it all come across in his presentation. You add to that how confident he is right now and how much he knows it's working and how much the company is kind of backing him as well. And it's perfect stuff. Like literally, he could say Ospreay won the title or all in. He could be an Ospreay challenger, couldn't he? I'm not sure I'll put him over him right now. I think we're a couple of years or a few years off that at this point, but he's there. Like he's past, and I don't say this lightly because I fucking love him. He's one of my favorite wrestlers in AEW. He's past Takeshita as far as like at least an act in AEW. Takeshita's clearly still the best of the two from like an in-ring point of view. I'm not saying that, but as far as like a character with momentum, a character moving up the roster, moving up the rankings, however you want to put it, like he feels like the leader now. He feels like the one, and Takeshita is the 1B, and that wasn't a given when they put this stable together as well. Like he's firing on all cylinders right now, and yeah, this match was just a perfect example of it in a card that I think needed a match like this.
Yeah, and I think with that as well as you've just got to look at him and just think the work that he's put in as well, and that like obviously there's the work that he's put in from the character point of view. Remember when we first used to see him, how like he was rake thin kind of thing, like he
the world's worst haircut,
a tall skinny guy with that half and half haircut kind of thing. Like now the size on him, because he always had the height, the way that he's like that he's sort of like thickened out and like just how much like effort.
He's the gangly teenager who became what he's become.
But he's the definition and things. He looks great, which fits that character. Like you look at him, and I just think like, imagine if you worked with him. Imagine if he was in your office, like how much you'd fucking hate him, just like strutting about the place and like the little like smarmy facials and stuff like that. But then he's brilliant as well. So he's the guy who's getting the big bonus at the end of the month as well, and things like that probably, and just strutting about. It's almost like that's the character that is.
He'd be your manager, but he's 20 years younger than you. You'd be fuming about it, like he's that. You become your supervisor.
Thinking of acts though, like I struggle to find an act that I maybe enjoy more than Kyle Fletcher right now, and just as a whole package for what he brings to the table when he's on TV or is on pay-per-view. And God, if you'd have said that to me 12 months ago, like I'd have thought, God, he's light years off that. Like he's 5 years off that kind of thing. He's got so much more developed that he needs to do. He's developed like that. And, you often talk about this is people being given an opportunity. And some people like get that opportunity. It could be one match or it could be one feud or something like that. And they don't grab it or they don't do something to like stand out and come across like, he got that feud and he's fucking grabbed every second of TV time that he's got, and whether it's with the mic in terms of the stuff that he's doing in ring, if it's just small details like facials and things, he's grabbed every second that he's been given and used it to his own advantage to make him feel like more than. And fair play to him. What a fucking great job he's done.
A fresh act as well, like just as you say there, how excited you are about him. Like you don't, because it's happened so quickly. Not really thought about the fact that you can plug him in there. Like Ospreay doesn't have to be his only feud. He could have a long-term feud with a Hangman Page, with a Swerve, one of the other big baby faces. Kenny, I know we teased that with the tag team stuff, but not really, been done as a singles. Like those long-term types of feuds that he could bring a fresh element to when, one of those characters isn't in the world title scene and needs something else to do. He's the perfect guy, isn't he? For that role. So yeah, share your enthusiasm massively. But going from there, we get to the point in the card there where it did send me to bed.
Speaking of enthusiasm,
should have chosen this moment to do it, as we have the Jericho Bandido title versus mask match. And what the fuck was going on here, mate? It's funny as well because I'm hardwired to hate on this and call Jericho a cunt, and I'll continue to do all of those things. But there were elements in the early match. It was like, oh, this isn't going too bad. They look like they got a little bit of a chemistry here. Jericho's kind of knowing his role here in with their Bandido. He can create the movement, and Jericho can do his nonsense. And we'll get through this. I mean, the match shouldn't be on the show. We should have held off for the big ROH show that's coming up, Supercard of Honor. That's not on a Vegas weekend, but they're doing their own weekend, whatever. But yeah, the longer it went, and then the bullshit finish, call it fully loaded, call it that Raw with Jericho and Triple H, call it whatever you want. Like, just absolute hot garbage is what I'll call it. And there was part of me that did think Bandido might lose here, as we talked about, with him being a cracking looking lad. As I think you probably saw it as well when we were at those Wrestling Media Con shows where he was just wandering around in the toilets, in the backstage areas, just with no mask on. Didn't seem to be arsed that everyone could see him. Cracking looking lad. I think there is a possible future for him as a maskless wrestler, but the tease was now as for whatever reason, Jericho needed a visible pin. And as I mentioned earlier, I won't labor the point too much. For whatever reason, this was the moment that the AEW referees determined that even a replay wasn't required. We'll just believe his mum. If his ma says it, then it happened. And we got the baseball bat reversal. And Bandido got the win, but we've talked about a couple of matches tonight, Gareth, where it's like, the loser won and the winner won too. This was one of those matches where the loser lost and the winner lost too. Like, who gained anything from this finish and this just overbooked mess of a match?
I mean, I think it lost in every single every single perspective. This match, didn't it? I think the crowd, I think for one, was absolutely fucking dead from the earliest on point with this. You could just see how uninvested they were in this match and these two wrestlers there. Obviously, the match itself was, well, for me, shit the bed, like completely. It's just like, it's just not an opponent. It's just not a match style that Jericho should be like trying to indulge himself with in 2025 at this point. It was trying to do stuff there that he definitely had no place still doing. I think it just made a lot of like, where Bandido was trying certain offense, it just made it look a bit slow, or it just made it look a bit clunky and things like that, which didn't work either. And then I'm assuming that while my internet was gone there, you've absolutely fucking buried the finish, because what the fuck in any kind of wrestling, you talk about logic in wrestling and things, that there are at least consistent things that happen and don't happen in wrestling, and what you don't have is people's family jumping over a barricade and reversing a referee's decision. Honestly? I was just like, Why doesn't every wrestler buy 2 tickets for their mum and sister like every match now, and then just go and like point at a steel chair at ringside or point at the timekeeper's bell or something like that and go, oh no, they used that. That's why they got beat there. It just absolute like unreal. The fucking ending to that. And if I say the crowd at the start, fucking hell, they weren't into the match at the end, and they weren't feeling that ending at all, which is like, start them off shit, send them home shit. Like, what are you playing at?
Oh, no worries. Yeah, the internet's not our friend tonight. Steph had to disconnect their iPhone before. There's something about Apple products just fucking take all the bandwidth. Don't know what they're constantly uploading or downloading. That's why I don't trust them, and that's why I'm an Android man. But between us, we've got one working internet connection tonight, so we'll be all good. But yeah, moving on from there into the next match, Adam Cole and Daniel Garcia. This was my moment to tap out. Again, though, similar to the Garcia thing, I could see Gareth being sneakily invested in this one. It does feel very much like a collision feud. It reminds me of one of the many phrases we often say on this podcast. The world needs ditch diggers. I wouldn't quite make these guys ditch diggers, but wrestling needs undercard, guys. Not everybody needs to be world champion. I think we found out Adam Cole's level over time in wrestling, and it's not, a huge travesty that Daniel Garcia is not, top of the card. I think he's about in the right slot in AEW as far as like the TNT title being his thing. He had the belt for way longer than I thought he would. I think he could have done a lot more with that reign, and I think he could have been a lot more visible during his run as TNT champion. But I was quietly fine with this being a little bit of a B-show feud that was going on. I think, especially in comparison to, I think I've seen people throw it around as a negative that, the Continental title and the International title are so, are swept up with a genuine main eventer in Kenny Omega and an alleged main eventer in Kazuchika Okada, meaning that this belt has become lesser than. But again, like in WCW back in the day, you want a TV champion, you want an Intercontinental champion, you want, feuds to mean something in the undercard that don't necessarily mean that the people on either end of it are going to end up in the world title picture anytime soon. With all that said, 8th match on the card on a long night with, like I say, it feeling like a bit of a B-show feud. I don't think they did the lads many favors, and felt like one that should have come a lot earlier. Like I say, not a huge travesty that Garcia has lost here. I think he's going to have other TNT title reigns. I think the travesty is more what they did with the TNT title reign with him as well. But yeah, Adam Cole over, and I presume there'll be a rematch. It was a match for me, mate, and it was one that it took me until today to motivate myself to go back and watch, having tapped out on the night.
Yeah, and I think it's that. I think as a feud, perfectly fine with it. Like you say, I think it's dragged Adam Cole to the level that he should be at. Definitely not. In main event storylines, and not something that you want to sort of like pitch your wagon to as the overall company, but as a character who's over to a certain level with the crowd, who can be at this middle card level. Great. I think the Garcia title run, I think over the course of it as a whole, I think it's been a positive for him. He's somebody who needed to get like consistent wins and be presented like in a certain way on TV, and I think he's had that, to a reasonable amount throughout the run. I think for me, it's just him losing the title in this feud at this time. It felt like if they were going to do something, even just establishing him as the level of champion that he is at that mid-card level, for me, he needed to come through this feud with the title, and they could, this was one where they could have done it in a way that Adam Cole's probably still got that sort of strength of favorability with the crowd, that he ain't going to lose that much by losing to Daniel Garcia, but Daniel Garcia could have actually gained something by going over, Adam Cole within this feud as well. So I was a bit disappointed to see Cole get the win. I think, Garcia's work in this match I really liked. He looked really aggressive. He looked really dominant. I think, with the injury that Adam Cole had to the ankle, Garcia like played on that with his work really well. That was something that he enjoyed. But as well as not liking Garcia dropping the belt to Cole at this time, it just felt like this to me was an example of somebody walking away from it and feeling like less than. I feel like he's almost like ended his title run now here, shunted back a little bit, back to square one, because he almost feels like he's now lower in the pecking order. I think he lost this match like clean to Adam Cole, who'd had a very obvious injury in this match as well. So like he's lost clean to a visibly injured Adam Cole. You know, I just feel like almost like, where do you go from here? I sort of a bit. It made me just feel a bit like, oh well, who are you then, Daniel Garcia? If you can't even beat him in this condition at this time when you're the champion as well. It just seems a really odd decision, because it did feel like he has picked up some sort of like momentum, and he's meant more than he meant 12 months ago, and that.
It's a bit little brothering, isn't it? When it's another baby, an up and come up. It's like on a smaller scale. That I'm definitely not comparing Adam Cole to CM Punk, but it's when CM Punk beat Hangman Page for the world title, and it was like, it wasn't the way the Hangman Page world title. It's supposed to be a good, a feel good story. This young babyface is the new world champion, and who did lose to? An older babyface who's more popular, or just as more popular just through, having been around a lot longer in CM Punk. Same thing here. I think Adam Cole, has had his ups and downs, but like you said, it's very much, he's on a downswing right now. He's moved down to this level. He's moved down to TNT title level, but what still comes with him is the years of TV time and inbuilt overness that he's got as a character and a name that people know. And yeah, it does feel a little bit little brothering when someone like him is the one to beat Daniel Garcia, who's supposed to be the one on the up. He should be lapping Adam Cole, shouldn't he? He should be moving past Adam Cole, and instead it feels a little bit like he's been replaced. I think that's where I do maybe just put a pause on it, though, in that, say this was one of those feuds where, like WCW's TV title in the 90s, like with Booker T or Chris Benoit or whoever, where we're hot potato on the belt a little bit. And I've seen people paint that as a negative with the TNT belt. Massively disagree. I think that's the belt you can do that with. That's the belt where historically they've done that with. If that's coming, I'm more on board with it. Don't know necessarily based on this 3.25 star match whether I really want to see more Adam Cole and Daniel Garcia matches, but as like a definitive, this is a TNT title feud, I think I'd be all right with it if they hot potatoed the belt and Garcia got it back relatively quickly. But it could be just as you've said there, and considering the matches they've had so far, it might well be that this is it, and this is kind of the sad way that up and coming babyface Daniel Garcia loses his belt.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those as well. Is Adam Cole doesn't need a belt. Like, if Adam Cole's working at this level, he doesn't need a belt, like, at all. Whereas I think, the belt actually adds something to Daniel Garcia, or adds something to that caliber. Adam Cole can come out and he can do his catchphrases, and he can be that same act whether he's got a strap on his shoulder or not, sort of thing. So I think that's the disappointing part for me. And I don't know, maybe I'm just a downer on Adam Cole, because to me it just looks like, all right, well, here we go. Like, there's going to be Adam Cole involved in some storyline to a certain level now. Hopefully hopefully some decent up and coming heel just destroys him for it. Maybe Big Bill will kick his head to the back of the crowd or something like that, and give Big Bill a run with the belt.
Maybe Michael Wardlow's time is now. Maybe he's on his way back. Anytime there's a mystery man, people think it's going to be him, don't they? Maybe. But there we go. Well, that's that one, and that gives us one more match to talk about, which again is one I think a lot of people have pegged as the match of the night. Saved in some people's opinion. Am I hedging enough for you? The best till last. Kenny Omega, Ricochet, and Speedball Mike Bailey. I'll start first because I don't know where to land on this match. Gareth. Like, if you'd asked me at different points in this match, I'd give you a completely different answer. Like Steph will attest to, there was a point like 15 minutes into this match where I'd have probably just, like I did the CCK LAX match, excitedly told you it was 5 stars and the greatest match I've ever seen. And like, that's even with some of the convoluted like 3-way spots that they did in this thing. I thought they had the balance really well. I think it wasn't a match I would have booked. I would rather have seen Omega in 2 singles matches than this 3-way. But if you were going to do this match, I think they did a really good job of, really fun exchanges between Speedball and Kenny Omega, having Ricochet play the role I think we all expect him to have in this match, which is pretty much be the spoiler. Like, is there a better mid-card act in wrestling right now than Ricochet? And I don't say that as a slight. Like, not everyone has to be a main eventer. And if you want a tailor-made, perfect mid-card / upper mid-card wrestler for a wrestling promotion like AEW, Ricochet's perfect because he provides character. He provides like that shit heelness that he can get away with taking losses like he does often and here in AEW. He's perfect to be a bit of a foil to the baby faces in moments in the match. But also, you know what? He's not no slouch in the ring either. Maybe he's not the Ricochet, the Trevor man that he was 5 years ago, but he can still keep up. You know, when we're doing clever spots with Speedball and Omega, and he has to be in certain places at a given time, he makes it look easy for him because it is easy for him. He can still go to that degree. So he's just perfect for the role he is in the match. And there were so many little moments in this match and little character moments with him I really enjoyed. Thought the elevated Speedball really well. I just think, like the main event, it just went on. I think it was and again, I know you're not as high on Speedball as kind of I am as an act. He was probably my favorite indie wrestler at one point. But with Speedball Mike Bailey, once you've seen one of his matches, you've kind of seen them. And I think the last 15 minutes of this match suffered a little bit from that for me. In that, you know, he loves to do that spot where he does the moonsault on the apron into the double knees and he misses, and then he sells his knees until he doesn't really bother selling his knees anymore, and you go to the finish, and it's a nice crowd-pleasing thing that we've all seen a million times on the indies. But I think they just did that for a little bit too long in the last 15 minutes of this. I think they missed the peak a little bit, and I think that kind of got elongated and stretched out a little bit to me to the point of ridiculousness. Still a great match. Still great performances from them all. Still, I would say, the second best match on the show. And I think maybe I'm the low man on this one. I don't know whether you're going to kind of agree with the consensus in this one. It just wasn't quite at the level that I was hoping for it to hit. And I think a lot of that was just maybe they almost had too many ideas and tacked on an extra 10 minutes on the end that weren't there. Just the prototypical match that missed the peak for me, even if it was very good. But hopefully you're going to disagree with me because I imagine the chat has gone as well.
I mean, my first note that I've written down is, I suspect you'll have liked this match more than me.
Oh, no. I did like it. I did, because I like all the people in it, you know. And I've got more time for Bailey than I think you do. Yeah. I think he's never been one of your guys, has he? Probably for the reasons that are actually finally annoying me now that he's on telly, unfortunately for him, because we've seen this, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you picking it out there, I'm just not a Speedball guy at all. Like, I've never understood the hype and love that he gets. You know, I just don't enjoy. I just don't enjoy what he does. And then, so I guess, like, you know, I
don't you, mate? Just admit it.
I hate the way, I think a lot of his stuff just looks phony. I hate the fact that he just, like, his move set is too small and repetitive. Like, you know, you obviously, like, you know, pulling out sort of the moonsault knees and there's just not a lot there for me that, you know, he doesn't bring that much to the table. I don't like the look. Like, I'm just, you know, some wrestlers you just, for whatever reason, some people like them and you don't, and I'm just not. Mike Bailey just does not connect with
Change me, man. That was great. I'll just take that position. You like those radio hosts who just take a position just for the entertainment of the audience. No, all right, 5 stars. Speedball was brilliant. Yeah, exactly that. But I don't disagree with Simon's saying there either. I think it helped, you know, because I think the first time you see that Speedball match, and maybe I don't know whether you were the same the first time you saw it. Like, Peter used to come to some Progress shows, didn't he? Like, late on the day, he came to a couple in Manchester. He fucking loves Speedball, because the first time you see it, it's like, fucking hell, has he got any knees left? What's he going to do? And then when he fights through it, and then it leads to the finish, the first time you see it, it's fucking amazing, isn't it? And I think if you're him, and this is your first time, obviously he's been on TNA TV and done New Japan and such, but like, this is your introduction on AEW TV. He should be doing all this. He should be introducing his resume to everybody. I think I've maybe fallen into your camp a little bit when it's like, all right, well, then what? And also, seeing this, mate, I've seen you tell this story, so maybe that's why I'm the low man compared to what it sounds like. You know, everybody loved this.
I've seen you do this 14 times every single WrestleMania weekend, so at least that won't be something you have to. At least we don't have to do that for Grapple Mania this year. But the match as a whole just didn't resonate with me. Like they worked at a good pace. Like, you know, naturally there was good spots, because of course there was. Like, you know, again, I'm always happy to say when I've been wrong. I said, you know, Ricochet was bringing nothing to the table on here like months and months ago, and that was before this characterization stuff's come out of him that I just did not know that he had in his locker at all. You know, I think he's leaned into that, you know, so well. I thought he brought some like positive bits to this match, but I just, it wasn't my kind of match, was it? Like, for me, there was nothing for me to think about and get from a structural point of view, build a reason to care about anything. It was lots of stuff happening that was perfectly well executed, that was worked at 100 mile an hour, that moved from, as you say, the different combinations and pairings that we had through the match with, you know, looking like someone's got the job done and Ricochet coming in and spoiling it and things like that. That can all be true, but at the same time, it's just not connecting with me at all. Like I'm very low on this. I'd be like 3.25 on this match or something like that. Wow. It was just a match. Like, I enjoyed that Tony Storm match significantly more than I enjoyed this. You know, I thought the finish was good. Like, I'll give them that. I thought that was well done. You know, I thought Bailey playing his part into, you know, working in towards that finisher as well. Like, I'll give him credit there too. But again, it got to the end. I was thinking, finally, that's over, because it just felt like it dragged. I was feeling tired by that point. I couldn't wait for the match to finish, and I was just thinking, that is a match I will literally never ever watch again in my life, other than, you know, if we do a 10-year anniversary of Dynasty in the Patreon for some reason in 2035 or something like that.
Dynasty mixtape. One day. Well, yeah. It's funny, I expect to be the low man, but maybe I shouldn't really with the match type. I'd go a bit higher. I'd go 3.5 to maybe 3.75 range, but certainly no higher than that. And I think the ceiling, despite, again, me preferring the singles match, I think the ceiling was a lot higher than that. And I think they kind of half came near it, you know, at points in the match. There was some very clever stuff. I even liked the finish. I liked, you know, Kenny and the Super One Winged Angel, and maybe they could have done a little bit more work to get Bailey trapped, but I kind of like that, because I think it protected him a little bit. I think that was good booking. I think it was smart. But I think what wasn't good booking was putting this match together in the first place. Again, I think Kenny Omega big pay-per-view matches are a special thing, and they should always be a special thing. And again, if you weren't giving us a big Ospreay match, if you weren't giving us anything else major on this undercard, I think you needed a bit of major Kenny as well. Whether Okada will be that, obviously him coming out post-match, we'll see. He's kind of the forgotten man in AEW, isn't he? You talk about going back and watching stuff. We joked about that on our Scrapple. Like, it almost feels like a threat to the idea of, like, oh, do we do a mixtape? Do we go watch the old ones before we get to the new one? I don't know if I've got it in me, mate. just play back the tape of when we reviewed them when we were, you know, when we were young and we were enthusiastic in 2017. You can listen to us, or 2018, whatever fucking year it was. You can hear us rave about those matches. I don't know if I'm whether I'm up for watching even the classic ones, and two, I don't feel positive about them trying to run it back. I'm just not sure. I think this Okada run's been a bust in AEW. I think it's fair to say that. He's been a comedy character, and he's been a comedy character that doesn't hit for me. The matches haven't worked for me, and it's felt like very Nakamura in his surfing suit for me with Okada. It feels like his post-retirement run was to come to AEW. Again, it's one of the greatest pairings in wrestling history. So it could go the other way too, but there's just something in me that thinks we're going to watch it and go, I don't think we're going to doubt how great those original matches are, but I think we're going to get a reminder maybe of the fact that it's 2025 and it's a different world. Even if they do play the hits are all in.
The worst thing that they could do is try and play the hits, I think, because neither of them can go like they could go back then, and justifiably so. Like, of course, time has moved on. They've both had fucking loads of, you know, injuries and, you know, medical problems and things like that. So, like, you can't expect them to do that. What I do hope they've got in their locker is a totally different style of match that's still great, kind of thing. So they don't go out and try and work the match style that they were working there. I hope they kind of sit down and go, like, right, how can we put a great match on within the physical limitations that we've both got these days? Because really, with the wrestling brains that they've both got, they should be able to go out there and have a brawl or have something, have a match that is, comes from a totally different angle to what they've done before, and it still be good. But it's a match that I'm intrigued to see what they do and what they come up with, because quite clearly it's something that they're going to have put a lot of thought into when they knew that Okada's coming in and known that at some point we will work towards this match. But I mean, when you say about the old ones, it's definitely crossed my mind on a couple of dealers' choices where I've thought, oh, maybe we could do like a Carter Mega, and then
be the biggest heel in the room, mate.
and then you go like, nah, you look at it and you're just like, nah, I'm not putting that time in.
More than one King of the Mountain threatened it, and over on Benno and Hamflet, somebody's actually suggested one of them for a housekeeper. So I think I will be reviewing at least one of them at some point. But honestly, it does fill me with dread. Maybe I should leave the memories alone.
Leave the memories alone. I was just going to say exactly the same thing.
Yeah. We'll see. But yeah, there you go. That was kind of obviously the semi-main, and obviously we've talked plenty about the main. I think for me, not to repeat ourselves, but like I said, I think it sounds like we differ a little bit on like some of the positives and negatives. While broadly agreeing there was good stuff on the show, I think in recapping it there, it just underlines the point I made at the start. There was good stuff. It wasn't good enough to make up for kind of the lack of stakes that was in much of this undercard, and really to make up for the main event. This is in the very bottom quarter, at least I'd say, of AEW pay-per-views for me. I think you'd have to go back to pandemic times for me, and that's not to. I'd saying AEW, it's still good. It's like bad pizza, isn't it? But it's still, not at the level that we come to expect from AEW. And like we said at the top, you don't want to see that slipping in to more of these. I think at least the positive we can take, Double or Nothing, is what, 6-7 weeks away. There's might even be 8 weeks. It's tail end of May, so there's a bit of a gap now, and then even after that, All In is early July. So then you've got like the whole month of June and a bit of a gap on either side, and then Forbidden Door over here is a little bit after that as well. So I think that'd be for the best. I think Tony Khan has said before he didn't want to overdo it with the pay-per-views, and this might have been the one too far for me. Any other thoughts before we move on to some other quick stuff? We'll catch up before we get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it just felt like a really good TV special, almost, because a lot of the stuff that was
cracking episode of the Collision. Is that too much of a slight? It was very Collision. It was very Collision. It was like the Collision of pay-per-views, wasn't it? Whereas like we're normally getting the Dynamite of pay-per-views, and we love Collision. There's things to enjoy about Collision.
But because some of the good stuff was angle related as well, or character related as well. Like, I'm sitting back and I'll, stand by what I said at the start. It was a show that I sit back and I think about and think, did I enjoy that? Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was good. It was good. I really enjoyed it. But, a big part of that was the characters were some of the like post-match angles that happened in different things, as opposed to it just been all about like, that was a 4.5 star match. That was a 4.5 star match. That was a 4.5 star match, as a lot of AEW pay-per-views are. So it was enjoyable for different reasons, but unquestionably not hitting the heights of the best, pay-per-views, especially coming off something like Revolution that I thought was really, really strong.
Absolutely. Well, we'll leave there's a couple of news stories coming out. We'll let JP cover that on the midweek news dump tomorrow. Patreon.com/grapple if you want to hear such wonderful audio. But yeah, while I've got you, Gareth, worth doing a quick catch up. We'll change gears entirely to what else you've been watching. And as I've been teasing on both Ash Grapple and here, mate, you're a seasoned Raw viewer now. It is the build to WrestleMania. Obviously, again, a quick Patreon/YouTube member plug. Me and Matty will be in the hot seat for the weekend show this week. So it's going to be Matty's last show before he goes away. So I imagine we'll go deep on his strange excitement for this WrestleMania thing that's coming up. But do you share any of his excitements coming off Raw? And is there anything you'd like to pick out to have a quick chat about before we get out of here?
I mean, I'm not sure. Like, when I look at the WrestleMania card, I'm not sure how excited I am for it. When you piece together and you look at the matches that are on the card overall. But I think everybody knows my thoughts on WWE generally. But I have been enjoying Raw to a reasonable level, and I've got to be honest, a big part of that, I think, is the Netflix edit, because I typically watch Raw on like I probably don't watch it till a Thursday normally, and then like Netflix have got this tight edit down that's like 1 hour 45, so you can kind of just throw it on in the background. It's got all the bullshit and all the stuff in between matches that you know really annoying, like all the little advert packages and things like that just like do your head in, or all the stalling for time and things. Well,
is that just the regular replay, or is it like a different version? I didn't know they did that.
No, it's if you click it and to watch it like later in the week, they've just cut it. They've just stripped it right back.
This is my mistake. I watch it live. What an idiot!
You get a little note in the top corner just saying like, this is an edited version of a live performance or something like that. And it's honestly like I'll have it on in the background, and because I know I'm not coming on a podcast to talk about it, because I'm not really having to have any sort of like detailed thoughts about it beyond it being there on my telly and something that I'm not taking that seriously. It's a good way to watch it, and you can just kind of like take the good bits out of it and just zone out to the bits that you're not that bothered about. So it's definitely been a win for me, I would say, when it comes to watching WWE currently. This week's Raw, maybe it was just because I had to watch it today and I didn't get that nice tight edit. I got the actual like proper, like having to endure the entirety of Raw when I watched it today for tonight's show. I just thought it was poor. I thought it dragged, generally throughout, before it finally got to probably the segment that I would say was a highlight, and it was the closing segment with Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins coming down in ring there, where obviously the whole thing was set up around obviously Paul Heyman going to be in CM Punk's corner at WrestleMania rather than Roman Reigns. The favor being cashed in, and Seth trying to cut a proposals. Promo saying, essentially neither of them give a shit about you, and putting loads of work into that. I thought it was. I'm going to heal myself here with you, Benno. I thought Seth Rollins was fantastic in that promo. I thought, honestly, I thought he was really, really good. I think it was one of the in this period of watching Raw, I think it was one of the best promos that I've seen someone cut. It had kind of like the right amount of like edge to it, the right amount of confidence, the right amount of manipulation to it. It just felt like it was pitched perfect there.
Paul Heyman pitched it really well.
I'll wait for you to bat that one right back at me.
No, I mean, it's when you got Seth Rollins coming out and doing the fucking "I'm a revolutionary" bullshit and the single line and all that. Like he loses me right away, but it was one of his better performances. Like I don't massively disagree. I still think he's like by far like the third wheel in this story. Like it feels like he's literally only in this story because Roman Reigns barely makes TV and he's not going to be on TV till next week. And like there's weeks that Punk doesn't make, so they need someone for Punk to go back and forth with. Genuinely, I think that's literally the only reason. But as far as creating a little bit of doubt, and it almost felt like it was an answer to the SmackDown segment where he really was a third wheel and where it really was about like Punk and Roman. And it was like I was fantasizing in my head a different version of this WrestleMania build where it's just Punk and Roman going back and forth at each other and bringing up the Heyman history, and it just being about the two fucking megastars having a match. Like he was literally stood in the corner laughing along, trying to like just look like he belonged in the ring. And I wonder if that was just in his head. I've got to grab a bit of attention. I've got to have a good night to this week. And yeah, he had a better night than he usually does. That's about as nice as I'm willing to be.
I mean, where the I was left thinking. I don't know if this is just my Russo-pilled brain from growing up with this, but I was just left at the end of this thinking: does Heyman side with Seth Rollins at WrestleMania?
Oh my God.
Is this a direction that they're because like so much there where it ended on "you owe me a favor" like to Heyman, and then there was obviously the threat of physical contact which didn't happen kind of between Seth Rollins and and Paul Heyman.
It'd be very Heyman, wouldn't it? You know, Ryback, Claude. We forget that, by the way, that CM Punk is best friend. You know that he did in fact turn on in 2013. But anyway, we'll cover all that when we do this the CM Punk podcast.
There was lots of there was lots of Seth talking about like whose side are you on and things. I was just watching it, just thinking, Heyman's gonna. This is Swerve territory. This and this is
A-Train Big Show. He loves the lesser than guy, don't he? That's just history, isn't it? He always ends because it is a weird dynamic that Roman Reigns is supposed to be a babyface now, and his manager is Paul Heyman, who goes out there ostensibly to get heat most of the time. So yeah, it's an answer, isn't it, to a problem? Just not sure it's the answer I'd go with.
Is anyone saying this, by the way? It's
first time I've heard it.
It's been on my mind for the last 3 weeks that this was a possibility, and then when I saw that promo today, I was like, oh, I think that's happening. I don't know, because I can't. I don't know. To me, it just feels like Roman Reigns has to be a babyface now. Like CM Punk kind of has to be a babyface, doesn't he? Really, with the reactions and things that he's getting. I don't even know what Seth Rollins even is. Like I don't like, because obviously the crowd just react to him and sing his song and things. Like I've been like, so
well, that's why I probably wouldn't. I think that's what keeps him around. It's the sing-along, isn't it? With Seth, like as a real heel, we've seen it in the past. Does he have the legs? Can he pull it off longer term? He's always but yeah, first person I've ever pitched it, so would have a little bit of a intrigue.
I'm always looking for that swerve though, mate. That's a problem. I'm like,
mate. It's all a work. That's how we always find out. Well, speaking of non-swerves, what did you make of the other big promo angle that people are talking about in the chat there, which was Jey Uso and Gunther? I'm guessing you went unspoiled into that angle last week. I think last time I spoke to you, we were tiptoeing around it. We didn't want to ruin it for you. Hopefully you loved that. And I think the follow-up was weird. I don't think Jey was good, but I think that kind of added to it because he's not good. He's not a good talker, really. He's uncomfortable and he's nervous and he stumbled through his lines, but he got there and it was like, yeah, that's probably what this character would be like in this moment, you know, kind of standing up to a Gunther, or at least pretending that he's standing up to a Gunther. Overall, good segment despite those elements of it. That's just Jey all over. He's just not. You just got to accept he's not a main event act, and he's never going to be. And I think they've accepted that in story, and that they've given the main event of WrestleMania angle to the other story we just talked about with Punk and Roman and that. Instead, it's become more of a personal issue with him and Gunther, but I think it's for the best because that angle, hopefully you agree with, was a real, like, I can't think of a better Raw angle in recent times. You had a bit of blood and you've got me straight away, but I thought Gunther was incredible, and yeah, the heat they put on there on this feud with Jimmy and the change of direction, I think, from it being about a gold watch for getting a WrestleMania main event for Jey, it is now about something very different, and I think it's all the better for it. Definitely added a bit of juice.
Yeah, that was great stuff last week. I was so invested in that, like enjoying it at the time. I'm glad that was kind of.
I think you and Gunny are mates again. I made up. You and Skinny Gunny, best friends once again.
He's putting a little bit of beef on, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think he's listening. He's starting to get a little belly there coming back. So
he's just behind this podcast, mate. He's listening to last year's WrestleMania audio.
I'm optimistic in him, but not sure about that red tie look and all that. He looked like he worked for the fucking local council or something like that, bouncing down to the ring on Raw last night. I wasn't enjoying that too much, but this segment, like, it was the opposite of last week to me. Like last week, I thought it obviously was really good, and I enjoyed it, and I thought like, that's got a bit of something about it now, like going into WrestleMania. This, I thought. I just thought he came off a bit weak, really. I don't know. There was
Jey or Gunther?
Jey. Well, both, to be honest, because I thought Jey came across just looking a bit sort of piss weak. I'm thinking, hang about, you've had that like situation that you've had last week, and you're going to sort of come down and sort of moan about your ma and things like that, and just like it felt like. Why? Like, surely you need to bring a bit of physicality to this thing. You should be human, and I know they're trying to be that underlying thing of at WrestleMania I'm gonna, but it's like, well, no, actually, that was such a brutal beating last week, and that was such a brutal situation that you're just going to come here and stand in the ring and talk to me with a microphone. And then I didn't like those sort of Gunther pulling all those almost like semi-regretful faces that he was pulling, or them weird sort of faces. No, you've done that last week. You don't give a shit. You literally don't give a shit, and that's who that character. That character should be from that point. Like all that stuff about like his conversations with your mother and all this. You're like, well, she clearly didn't mind when you were fucking fighting with each other, when you were feuding with each other, and things like that as well.
Last year, WrestleMania.
Like literally 5 minutes ago. That sort of just felt like it made no sense. I could kind of almost feel like this felt to me like you could maybe have had this promo the week before WrestleMania. Like if there'd been some physical, it almost felt like it needed that physical comeback this week to me, where maybe Jay himself maybe steps over the line and takes things a bit too far, and then you almost like kind of have that like honest appraisal of yourself kind of thing of like I could even lean on him like my mum. You could even go back to his mum in that situation and be like, she was disgusted in me and things, or something, sort of whatever. It almost feels like, well, we've got a week to fill now to WrestleMania. You've had this sort of, understated, semi-polite face-off. Are you going to leave that anger all burning inside you until you're stood in a stadium at WrestleMania? I don't know. To me, it just sort of felt like it leaned on Jay's worst sensibilities rather than the things that are more positive about him. And I will say this as well: when he came down when he came through the arena, I reckon 10% of that crowd were yeeting as well. There was not that full arena shot there. Literally, Cole was saying, and everybody is, and then I could see like 4 people on camera next to him doing it, and everyone just sort of stood behind him.
But that goes to your point of it being the wrong time for it, doesn't it? Like this was not the week for the eating. This was the week for serious business. Like that's the just position, isn't it? They want to have the big entrance.
What's he going to do? Kind of like how
almost should have come out to no music this week. That might have been the move, or just come out as a surprise. And like Platt says there, and like you said there, a bit of physicality wouldn't go amiss. I think it'd be very Jey Uso. I think the feud has been plodding. Like they just ran out of material, so they seem to have pivoted into this more serious, like blood feud type of way. It would be very Jey Uso for us to get to WrestleMania to just not pull that physicality out, even with Gunther's coaching. And if it's just be a match, he gets his little entrance and he wins, and we're not talking about it 10 minutes later. Like that would be the Jey Uso way to do this feud. Let's hope for Matthew's sake there's more in it, because he'll be going around seat to seat making sure people do the eating, mate. So it's happening at Mania regardless. But there's just always that extra level. He hasn't got it. He just hasn't got it. And again, that's fine. It's okay. It's fine for him to be a really over road dog / Conan / attitude era guy who was not quite the Rock or Stone Cold Steve Austin, but was a really valuable player into the overall. That's what Jey Uso should be, and I think he gets found out in moments like that.
Yeah, I think I was at the start of this. I was like, oh yeah, fine for him to win at WrestleMania, and like you term it like gold watch moment kind of thing. Now I don't want. Now I really don't want him to win. Like I think having watched his performances as this has played out over the last month or so, like I don't think he should. I don't think they should. I don't think they should. Like I don't think he deserves it. I don't think he doesn't deserve to go over Gunther at WrestleMania for that.
I think my defense of it, even to spite myself, was being, well, it's only the World Heavyweight title, and it's a work, isn't it? It's a work that he's won the world title. That's just the story they're telling. It's not really reality. He's not really made it to the main event. But actually, like you say, I think the damage to Gunther from losing to him might be creeping over the line of whether that's worth it or not. At this point, even to do that nice moment and have that big, it's not even going to be the end. We know it's not the end of the show now. You haven't even got that, have you? It's not even like it's the thing we're going to be going off the air with. You haven't even got the confidence to do that. Instead, it's the 3-way. So yeah, that might be them giving themselves an out, giving themselves an escape. Any other thoughts on the week's TV? Did you see that Braun Breaker spear? Fucking hell!
Flat said it.
Fucking best things I've ever seen. Yeah, people haven't seen it.
How good is he? Like,
He's
like,
fun, isn't he?
you know, when I talk about people like, you know, the highlights when I've been watching Raw now for a few months, I just love seeing him on my screen. I just want to see more of him. They just need to just fucking do that with him and just like elevate him. You like straight up the card because he's just so entertaining. Like he's, you know, he's just got like, you know, it's easy to say kind of thing with the heritage, but he does just have that old school vibe to him. Like he just have that kind of old school, a bit
Not even
sort of
Steiner. There's a bit of Goldberg there too, isn't there? There's
a bit sloppy ass kicker kind of thing that's got, you know, that's got charisma without having charisma, or like it's sort of a weird kind of, I don't know, he's almost like an odd jigsaw puzzle kind of thing, but he just works. Just whatever he is, he just works. And when he hit that fucking spear, like, and basically just did full 360 after it, like
he's almost vertical, isn't he? It's the fucking wildest thing.
Oh, loved it! What a fucking great spot that was. I enjoyed the Lyra Valkyria Bailey match. Like again, you know, I love a bit of Bailey, but I think Lyra Valkyria's had some good matches on again over the last few months, and you know, I thought that was something that worked quite well. I don't know. Are they on Wrestle? Have they got a match at WrestleMania? I don't even.
So.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I don't know if she's on the
card
or not. But it would like to. You know, she's someone I'd like to have a decent spot, because I tell you what, fucking a million times better than what I've seen from Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair and Io Sky. Like I hate that.
Is Io Sky in that feud? Yeah.
I hate that. Just peeking over the wall at the back. I hate that whole combination. I hate the way that it's been put together. Obviously, Io Sky's there, but she's not there. The other two are terrible on the mic. They can't, you know, trying to, you know, build something towards that by putting a microphone in their hands is like the worst situation to, you know, they should be finding themselves in. But yeah, there's that's one that I'm definitely not filled with any enthusiasm.
This is the thing.
For.
I just think WrestleMania up and down. I'll get into the bigger chats as we get closer. It's full cowardly booking, really. Chris Elliott saying they're in the tag gauntlet on the Fridays to get the shot at Mania. It's just also undercooked, isn't it? It's like LA Knight versus Jacob Fatu. Like, surely, like why are you saving like the Jacob Solo is obviously where we're going. I didn't want to see Solo in a big match, but clearly that's the destination. So why is that not the WrestleMania match? Why is that there? Like, why is like the Lottie, and like we've talked some positives there, like some of the negatives they were mostly on SmackDown this week. What the fuck is going on with Lottie and Tiffy? Like, what? That was one of the worst things I've ever seen. Perversely entertaining because it was so bad, but I can't believe it even made TV. That was something else. Like the Charlotte Flair, like, has spent that entire feud. Like, it was a weird decision in the first place to make that the WrestleMania match, but she spent that entire feud not letting Tiffy get over, not letting like the elite, you know, the crowd go the way they want, trying to desperately continue to, you know, not be booed out the building. And like that angle on SmackDown was literally it all coming to accumulation. The crowd turning on her, hair being rattled and not knowing how to handle it. Tiffy, I keep saying it's horrible to say Tiffy over and over again, but like Tiffy getting the better of her on the mic and just like literally just I don't know who went off script first, but fucking just ending it, you know, with the line about the marriages and the other lines in there as well. And like again, she can't even let her get the last word there when she's already rolled out the ring. Charlotte's trying to get that little line in, just making herself look even worse. It was kind of entertaining for what it was. It was car crash TV in all of the bad ways, but like sums up the build, really. What a mess. Maybe it makes us all more interested in the match, but Jesus Christ, what a decision it was to go with this.
Oh, it's been the worst horsewoman. I'll wait for Matty. I'll wait for Matty hearing this line and then in my messages tomorrow at that. But just like that was just embarrassing last week. It was like, and again, like you say it, like, yeah, you're perversely looking forward to that match now, just on the basis that it could all fall apart or something. You know, just how horrible it could be because of the the connection or lack of connection between them and things. That's just something that you just like can't look at at all. But it's
she'd stiff her in the match, but she'd have to hit half her offense first for that to work. So good luck with that, Lottie. We'll see. Garbage. The only other WWE note, I suppose, Kevin Owens, obviously, is stuff that sucks. I assume Sami Zayn ends up in the spot with Randy Orton. Who knows? But yeah, hopefully he's not out for any longer. I imagine JP will fill us in with some updates on that in the news dump. And yeah, anything else from WWE TV to fill in before we get to a couple of more news stories and then get out of here?
No, it's not from this week, but John Cena's shit still.
It's just not. Like, are we done? Is he like, is that it? Like, the Cody video package I enjoyed, but like, is Cody just carrying the feud now? Like, Rock's not going to be on TV, Cena's not going to be on TV, and the last thing we saw was Cody left him laying. Like, is that it then? Is that it? Like, oh, it has been a real disappointment for me. I didn't like it week one. I think it was carried by what it was. It was carried by the momentum. It was carried by those European crowds, which I think everyone got sick of by the end with the fucking footy chants and the Roman Reigns stuff. Fucking awful, hate them cunts. But like, it's been carried by the idea that John Cena is a heel, and that is still interesting enough to make me interested enough in the match. Like, I don't think it's a complete bust. I think just by what it is, there's enough there to be a draw. But in execution, nah, not for me. Not for me. And like, I think a lot of it's just been Cena's just out of touch. Cena's been acting like this was 5 years ago. Cena's had these, I've said it a couple of times, had these ideas in his back pocket for so long, they've gotten stale. Like, and this idea of the you people heel that he probably thought he'd be 10 years ago hasn't really translated in 2025, and it needed something a lot more focused on Cody Rhodes and the current lay of the land. And he's not really delivered it, and I'm not sure if they're actually going to pull it back based on whatever, his dates.
Because the people who fucking hated him all fucked off and watched AEW or not WWE anymore. So like half the crowd have never been there for his, they're too young to have been there for his most hated Cena run, or they're these people who are just going to fucking eat it up like anyway, and one way or another. So you're not even getting the crowd reactions to some of the more subtle things that he's maybe trying to say and throw in there as well, that maybe do sort of like lean back on something, people just going along. But it just feels lame. It just feels stale. And if you think, Christ, you've had how many years to like think about like what this could be if it eventually did happen, and this is what it is, and it's the same in
too many years, I think, has been the answer,
and 3 and 4, and we don't learn any lessons, and we just keep trying to push things down the same route. Fucking dog shit. Like, I just like I couldn't be less enthused about that match if I tried. And in theory, it should be something that you like thinking, oh yeah, like, at least looking to see how they execute that. Like, I've got no positivity about how they might even execute the match, like on the occasion either.
Badly is probably the answer. It's Cena, especially in 2025. I still want to Rubbernecker. I'm still like positive on the experience of it, but it's probably going to be more WrestleMania Monday.
Cody in it.
Yeah, well, there's that too. That helps too. Carrying it as our boy Code's there, like the true star that he is. Roman Reigns couldn't carry this material, but Cody can. I'll save those arguments for Thursday. But no, totally agreed. News-wise from WWE, there's a couple of updates in the Ring Boy lawsuit. Obviously much more important than in-ring matters, but just that Linda McMahon and Vince McMahon and WWE are all in lockstep, as they often will be, filing their motions to dismiss it and move it from Maryland, where it's supposed to be heard. Apparently, WWE, Linda McMahon and Vince McMahon have no connections to Maryland, so they want it moved to Connecticut. So that's where we stand on that. In similar McMahon family stuff, apparently Vince has been shopping. Eric Bischoff said on his podcast this week something about funding some kind of fight league or some kind of shoot fighting thing. Constantly get those rumors with Vince. I don't think any are gonna come to anything. But
he's always been so successful, hasn't he? When he's tried to do anything that's not WWF. So look forward to that one going bust in 12 months, even if he does do something.
And on top of that, obviously, Steph, you wanted to reference on McMahon-related matters. I believe you did catch the Stephanie McMahon interview with CM Punk. It was all CM Punk's fault. He's very sorry. He ruined Thanksgiving for Triple H and Stephanie, who definitely still share a bed. AEW didn't exist. That's what I got from that interview. 15 minutes of of extremely bizarre, stilted conversation that I imagine the stuff that's on the cutting room floor might be a little bit more interesting, but probably not much more.
No, that basically sums up my feelings on it. And other than Phil, just grow a set. What happened to you? I'm just, who is this
Playing
man?
a game, innit? It's weird.
Oh.
It's weird to see. He's like an android. It's like watching a sci-fi film where, like, yeah, this different version of Phil Brooks is just doing whatever he can to keep his head above water. And I mean, it's working, you know, like Phil said it a few times. Punk at 60% is still best than a lot of the other promo guys in WWE. And he's obviously over to this new audience now, like with this amount of time on TV. And is, like I say, he can position himself in these stories and sell you to an extent on the fact that he allegedly cares about this WrestleMania main event and Paul Heyman. But yeah, there's a real Phil Brooks still under there, isn't there? Where there's a different version of this that maybe we'll get one day when he burns that bridge. But I feel almost like we're not going to get it because I think he's so driven by spite to AEW, Tony Khan, to whoever, to make this work, to make the haters never be right, that he's probably just going to continue to swallow his pride and do stuff like this because that's what he is in 2025. I do think he'll be in Saudi next January for the Royal Rumble. I don't think there's any reason for him not to at this point.
It's like it's been taken into someone's basement and strapped in front of a TV and like reprogrammed, isn't it? In some way, because this he needs. I think I said in the chat today. He needs some trauma in his life. He needs something to just provoke a reaction out of him in some way. Because I'm not down with sitting watching him fucking being up Stephanie McMahon's ass. Like, the amount of plaudits for him and for her.
Real tears in his eyes.
Triple H and all that. Like, it's just give me a hug, give me another hug. Like, God, come on, what happened to you? God damn it! Never have heroes, eh?
Still watch him at WrestleMania though. I'll still be he's still good. It's only 70% Phil. It's still good. It's like it's Phil Max rather than full fat Phil. What else? Oh, you mentioned you watched a bit of Dark Side of the Ring. I haven't caught up with any of it yet. The Taker Mankind one just didn't really excite me. They the one's coming up this week, isn't it? Maybe I'll catch up with that by next week. But I know you've been watching a bit of that.
Yeah, I watched the Mankind Undertaker in the Cell one, and as always with Dark Side of the Ring, when it's like popular or more well-known characters, you're not learning anything. There's nothing there that you're not going to have seen before. I think there's some good stuff with like Foley's family. I suppose it was just interesting, just to his like wife's perspective, and just looking at things where she knew about the first bump, off the, through the table, obviously didn't know about the second one, and obviously shitting herself at home and things like that. So there was some that kind of like emotional element that got brought into it from that point, and sort of they took things down the route of eventually obviously getting to the Rock match that was big part of like Beyond the Mat and things, sort of like erring very much on that side of what he put himself through generally to physically and obviously like impact with his brain and things like that, and just to entertain the crowd and things. So they did try and sort of like build something into it from that point of view. But got to be honest, the main enjoyment I got back from it was just revisiting it and just listening to people like tell the stories of of the day that you've heard a million times before. But it's a long time since I've seen that match, so it was just entertaining from that point, just hearing people tell the Terry Funk stories and things of what was going on in the ring. Terry calling an audible and all that.
Chuck's on out of his trainees,
all that stuff that you'd heard a million times before. But yeah, it was quite a fun thing to revisit. I wouldn't say anyone should watch it expecting something that's particularly like revealing, new, insightful, anything there. But just as by way of a bit of nostalgia, if you've not watched the match in a while, it was quite good and it was quite interesting, just where they had Foley sat there just like watching the match as well and just talking about like different elements as well. So you just got some interesting snippets, but yeah, nothing that's going to rock the world by any means.
I'll catch up with it at some point. Obviously, like I say, the Vader one that's coming up does spike my interest a little bit more, but outside of that, yeah, it's the lineup for this year just didn't seem that interesting from the start, and like that's they've run, unless they're literally going to tackle the big fucking elephant in the room, which is Vince McMahon. Then that's kind of where we are. It's going to be a lot of fluff, and it's going to be a lot of stories their partner in a way, WWE are going to be all right with them covering, and that's pretty much what you're getting with this season of Dark Side of the Ring. They're just I don't know. Maybe we've gone through as it's been as good as it could be. This series.
We need a Brit Rest series.
That'd be good. I'd enjoy that.
There's some more material there for them.
maybe. But yeah, that's Dark Side of the Ring. Anything else you've been watching or been dying to talk about before we get out of here? Unfortunately, I haven't seen Sakura Genesis. I watched a bit of Goto and David Finlay. It looked good, but didn't get it. Unfortunately, didn't get it done in the end. And the idea of Sonada joining yet another stable did not float my boat either as far as catching up with the undercard on that. I need to get with it though. The G1 dates were put out there, and I am thinking of going to the G1 in August. I might get there and realize, yeah, I'm 5 years late, but it is on the bucket list of things I'll probably be doing later in the year as well. Maybe JP will have more thoughts, but I'm guessing you haven't been catching up with the 2025 New Japan.
No, not at all. Like when it was a surprise to me that Sakura Genesis was this weekend. So there you go. That's how
I wrote Power Struggle on the run sheet, so that shows you how invested we are in New Japan right now. The real journalists, us folks. I'll be a bit. By the time I get out there, mate, I'll be a New Japan historian. Me and Chris Charlton will be Kane and the Sake will be best mates, and I'll know everything that's going on. But yeah,
and then I'll know hell's frozen over, and this is all just a dream. If that happens.
The one thing I did see from the show, Yota Tsuji using his twin brother for twin magic, I could get on board with that. That could be something that's for me. Then Chris Elliott mentions the MLW Battle Riot. That is very much in JP's wheelhouse. He did tease yesterday on Ask Grapple that he did, in fact, watch it. Riddle and Rob Van Dam being the final two in Battle Riot. Only JP would sit through that.
Glutton for punishment, that lad.
Honestly, there you go. But yeah, anything you've been watching? Guessing not MLW or anything else before we get out of here?
No, I don't. That's it's enough hours of the week taken up watching stuff for Patreon shows, and then just keeping the AEW and WWE stuff ticking over these days.
There we go.
All roads lead to WrestleMania.
Oh no, I can't believe it's here. Grapplemania. I corrected Connor on that today during the Discord thread. WrestleMania does not exist. Grapplemania week, however, does. And yeah, unbelievably, it is next week. And obviously, we'll be kicking it off this Sunday. As far as the shows go, we will be recording our WrestleMania 9 review / documentary review as well, watching that Becoming a Spectacle stuff. And JP's actually sourced us some bonus material as well. We're going to get into as well. And after that, we're going to be kicking into things big time with the next week's spotlight will be the Grapplemania preview show. And we'll be rounding out and finding out which of the shows are real and which ones were made up by JP. This is going to be the year when it's going to be most hard to figure out what's what, but we'll have it all covered. We'll have our news dump on Wednesday. We'll have live shows Thursday, Friday, and Saturday covering all of the action going on. So there's another news roundup on Sunday, and then Grapplemania spotlight on the Monday. On top of that, Ask Grapple, Chris Platt's King of the Mountain pick, where we talk CM Punk's record set and world title reign. Spotlight every week, weekend show every week, including the Matty weekend show we got on Thursday, which is the unofficial WrestleMania preview me and Matty will be doing, as well as Brett Show and all that other good stuff. Plenty out there. The best value in wrestling podcast, then I reckon, got it.
Oh, 100%. All that content for buttons. Price of a pint. Fill your boots.
There you go. Get yourself on board, and you can even get a couple of free trials. Might even cost you a pint these days over on Patreon as well. But yeah, Simon, giving credit to yourself, Gareth. Always good to have you on and doing these breakdowns. And yeah, hopefully it won't be another AEW pay-per-view before we have you again, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Good to be back. Retirement's for dummies. But if you do enjoy listening to me talking AEW, I'll just throw in another plug as well. I'm recording with Martin Bushby tomorrow for the Eagles Don't Hunt Flies show. Where
you're a big John Moxley fan.
Talking a bit more John Moxley, mate. But John Moxley, Eddie Kingston, We're going to be going into that. So it'd be good.
Good stuff.
Nice to see a bit of Eddie on my on my screen. It feels like it's been a while. So yeah, looking forward to getting into that one anyway and catching up with Martin as well. So yeah, if anybody likes listening to me talk about AEW, there you go. There's another show.
There you go. There's your in. I just want to hear you and Brandon from New Jersey. I'm excited for that one. And obviously, Dickie, who's on there as well. choptees.com/grapple. I think there's the link to get our stuff from him. But I'm looking forward to you and him having a chat as well. But yeah, I was convinced Brandon from New Jersey was the intro voice on our Scrapple this weekend. Turned out to be Snoop Dogg. He just sounded like that's all there is to it. But yeah, excited. I've been on the show, cracking show, despite again everything I've ever said about John Moxley / Dean Ambrose. But on top of that, get Benno and Hamlet new housekeeping came up this past weekend as well. But that's all the plugs from me. Thank you, of course, to our patrons for getting us through another month, a big one with Grapplemania. Thank you, our live patrons, for staying up with us late tonight, despite the competition in the airwaves. And of course, thank you to our Patreon kings and queens of the mountain: Conor Laughlin, Eddie Sideburns, Chris Platt, Carl Gack, Sophia Hitchcock, and Sam Mulvaney in the chat right there. We will catch you again on the next one. Good night, all.
Yeah.
And I haven't done any outro music because JP is not here. So good night, all. Gotta come home a song.